Let's get a little intro going.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Conduit Cast. I am Nishquick from the channel Nishquick Pops, and I'm joined by Kevin the Protagonist, like usual. And today, we asked you guys on Twitter/X for some hot takes in the Xenoblade Chronicles series, and we have our own. So
Yep.
this one's just gonna be a really fun video where we're just discussing some of ours and the community's hottest takes relating to the series because this series just overall has a lot of divisive takes, so it'll be fun to discuss a lot of that. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Overall, we talk very highly about these games. Obviously, we have this entire show, and there's so much love for these games to go around. But there's also just an incredible amount of discourse, and we have some really spicy takes here, but nothing necessarily in too bad of faith, I suppose. It's not going to be
yeah,
a full-on battle. It's going to be more of a fun discussion.
yeah, we'll be lightly roasting some people who
Yeah.
replied to our
Yeah.
tweet.
There will be
And
some roasts.
yeah. Um and yeah, we'll see how passionate we get because like we love this series, but I've noticed this and I've mentioned this in other videos, like each game stands on its own so like prominently. So like that's why a lot of these like big like opinionated takes come from, and it's very interesting to see.
Yeah.
More than anything, it's just interesting to see what other people think of the series. Yeah. But before we get started on hot takes,
Oh yeah, we have some
um,
news.
yeah, we do have some news. Like we don't discuss news a lot unless it's like maybe it's like a really big thing, like Xenoblade 4 is announced or whatever. But
Yeah.
like this is actually maybe on the level of Xenoblade 4 being announced. But yes, we got the amazing and awesome and long-awaited announcement of Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, which is it's still a new game for Xeno and Xenoblade, but of course it's just like a remastered definitive edition. But honestly, like we've all been waiting for this for so long. Even though I recently completed the game like this year, I was still waiting for it to play it again on Switch, and this is gonna be Kevin's first time playing the
Yep.
game.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have the Wii U version. I have it in box. I have the Australian version because it was cheaper at the time.
Yeah.
But I will be just waiting for the Switch one now because it
Yeah.
just makes sense to just wait for it. And yeah, I'm super excited. This is a game that has been asked for so many times, basically since the Switch came out.
Yeah.
Because like that game originally released in 2015 in North America,
Yeah.
and I think 2014 in Japan.
I think it was 15 in Japan, 16 in North America, something like that.
Oh, something like that.
I may be wrong. We'll
Yeah.
check later, but yeah.
So, so many people have very interesting history with this game. I know a lot of people like started it and couldn't get into it. But a lot of people really love this game, and for some people it's their favorite Xenoblade game, or even favorite game in general.
Yeah, one of my really good friends who actually was like instrumental in getting me into Xenoblade Chronicles in the first place, his number one favorite game of all time is Xenoblade Chronicles X. And he's spent like over 300 hours in like two separate playthroughs of the game doing all the side quests and all that. It's a lot of fun. It's got that Breath of the Wild energy. I'm very excited for all the newcomers to play it. It's great. I'm looking forward to playing it again. Like I got so far that I just wanted to see the ending, and like a lot of like people I was talking to were telling me like please get to the end. You're so close to the end so we can like discuss lore. So I'm excited for you, Kevin, to finish this so you can chat with me and Jake, who's
Yeah.
dumb Zeno, about like there's some weird stuff with this game, which is amazing. So I'm looking forward to that.
And
But
there's gonna be new story content.
yes,
So we'll
that's
have
going
new
to
lore.
yeah. So you're gonna get the best experience with this game. Like
And
I feel
online.
lucky. Yeah, and online.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you'll
I
be able
feel
to
lucky.
experience the online for the first time
Yeah,
as
yeah, that's gonna
well.
be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I feel lucky that I didn't have to wait 10 years to fulfill that cliffhanger,
Hmm.
but I'm glad that I also get to see how
Yeah.
things are resolved, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
But
mean, kind of thinking about the news thing, it's like we'll definitely have a lot more. We'll do segments like this in the future. We
mhm,
just there hasn't been much Xenoblade news recently.
mhm.
Pretty much, we just had the art book, and then after
Yeah.
that,
There was also like the Monolith Soft 25th anniversary, but there's not like you can like dive into
yeah,
that, look into that, but there's not like a
yeah.
whole lot you can
Check
discuss
out
about that.
Yggdrasil's video about
Yeah,
the new Molotov stuff with the new team and
yeah.
stuff.
Yggdrasil has a really good video about like their new hirings and their new R&D engine, so that's
Hmm.
exciting. And nothing else. Yeah, just some interviews with Takahashi. The 25th anniversary thing made it even more like abundantly kind of like hinting at Xenosaga
Yeah.
exists. Xenosaga. I'm like,
Remember that it exists.
yeah. So, and I'm glad that a lot of people were like, Monolith Soft put out that 25th anniversary video, put Elma front and center, knowing in their head we're gonna announce Xenoblade X a few
Yeah.
weeks later.
It's crazy too that it was just a raw announcement. Like it wasn't in a Nintendo Direct or anything. They were just like, "Bam, Xenoblade X." Like I
Like,
had multiple
yeah,
people just like texting me. They were like, "What the hell?" Like, and even
we
people that
were
didn't
all,
know. I
yeah.
swear, people that didn't even know about Xenoblade, they just like they texted me about it. They're like, "Oh, hey, this is the thing you like."
We were all kind of expecting like maybe a Switch 2 announcement that week or that day,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
I
this
just
is
kept refreshing,
in
and
the
then
midst of
nothing.
every week. We're like, all right, guys, the Switch 2's got to be announced this week. I thought it was gonna be that second to last week in October, because that's when the Switch 1 was announced. Like
Yeah.
literally, what, 8 years ago to the day.
Hmm.
Um, so I was really expecting that, but sadly, no. It's probably gonna be announced at the beginning of the year next year, and then it's gonna come out in like summer or something.
We
We'll
arguably
see.
got something better.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, I mean, what if? Okay, that's too much minutia. I'm like, what if they announced the Zelda GameCube games with the Switch too? Like that'd be. They wouldn't do
Yeah,
that. They wouldn't
I
do
think
that.
that those are the last remaining things
Yeah,
that like Wind Waker HD is the only thing that's holding me onto my Wii U.
yeah. Same. Like
Otherwise,
Twilight
like,
Princess HD is really the only reason I have the Wii U. I think. I don't remember. Me and my girlfriend were just talking about like retro games, and she was like, "I have a Wii U, but I have no use for it." And then I
yeah,
was just like, "Well, if Twilight Princess was on the Switch, I wouldn't be playing it on the Wii
yeah,
U."
yeah. Yeah, I actually didn't get Twilight Princess HD on the Wii U because I was kind of like
Mm,
checked out by then,
yeah,
and I also played it on the Wii twice, so I was like,
yeah.
ah,
I
nah,
had it on the Wii, but I never finished it.
yeah,
And then I got it on the Wii U, and then I think I sold my Wii copy. But now
yeah,
the Wii U one is more valuable, and you
yeah,
can buy the Wii. You can literally buy the Wii copy
like
at
20
like
bucks,
GameStop now. Yeah, for like
like
20
20
bucks.
bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, because GameStop now
Any,
has retro
yeah.
games.
Oh yeah, they do.
Again,
It's
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, interesting how that just happened. But
yeah,
anyways, we can hop into hot takes. I guess we can just go ahead and hop into that. But how do we want to do like one from me, one from you, alternating, and then go
yeah,
into the community?
yeah. I think we do. Let's say yeah, one from you, one from me, then one from Twitter, and just go until we just get to just Twitter because we're gonna run out at some point.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or maybe
So
we could just come up with new ones. Like we'll see what
yeah,
happens.
we'll probably be like figuring out some more as we discuss as well.
Nish, quick, your first hot take.
Ooh, okay, I'm first. Okay,
Yeah.
so this one, I'm starting off very, very spicy with this one. This is going to be a Xenoblade Chronicles 1 take. And I don't know how to say this, but I will just preface by saying I feel like a lot of the diehard Xenoblade 1 fans are going to be very upset with me with this.
Yeah.
And especially some of our friends. I know they're gonna be like, "Ah, oh, Nishquick, why'd you have to say this about this one character?" But like, I was like thinking about it off and on. Like, do I feel this way? Do I not? How do I really truly feel about this? And then I replayed Xenoblade 1 and I completed that playthrough this year. And then I solidified in my mind that I'm like, Yeah, I truly kind of actually feel this way. So I'm
Hmm.
just gonna rip the band-aid off and say it. I want to see how I said it in here. Yeah. So I'm a little harsh in my notes here, but I said that Dixon is the worst villain in the entire series. And I don't know, like, of course there's like
What
some
about
villains.
Bana?
I think I will get into why I think I slightly prefer Banna to Dixon, and I'll get to that in a bit.
That's
There is a reason. I
crazy.
was thinking about that. I was like, well, Banna and like Yorin and Shania, like
Emerald. I forgot that guy's name.
who?
Emerald is green.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is his name? I don't even know.
Yeah.
There's the guy
And
with the
like,
arm from Torna, right? He has like
oh,
the
Gort.
prosthetic. Yeah,
Gort, right?
Gort.
Yeah, oh, like yes, there's like
There's a
minor
couple
villains.
like jobbers.
Yeah, there's some people who are like probably most likely worse than Dixon. Like there's some
Oh.
weird like I, characters in Xenoblade X that I'm just like
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of them, and they're
Yeah.
like bottom
Oh
of the barrel
man,
as well.
what's that one? I forgot his. Oh, Mui Mui. Mui Mui
Yeah.
is a better villain
Mui
than
Mui
Dixon.
is he's silly, but he's enjoyable at
I love
least.
Mui Mui. I'm a big fan of Mui. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to
Yeah.
that.
But why do I feel this way about Dixon when like he is responsible for probably the biggest plot twist in Xenoblade 1.
Mm.
He's the one who like shoots Shulk in the back of the head and he's like, "Ah, it was me." And
That scene was so
many
crazy.
people
Like seeing that with
yeah,
the first time for no like spoilers, just like what the hell is happening?
yeah, it's insane. Like so many things are happening back to back to back, and it's just twist after twist after twist, and it's done really well. But many people's like issues with Dixon revolve around how it's kind of obvious that he's the bad guy.
Mm.
And I don't really mind that, so to speak. It's like when he says those things in Sator Mars, he's like, ah, I feel bad for deceiving these kids or whatever. And I'm like, oh, like he's probably got some ulterior motive. It's whatever. A lot of people hate that line. I'm like,
Mm.
it's whatever.
Yeah.
Here is my thing. Here's how I felt about Dixon, especially like now. I saw that scene where he shoots him and I'm like, "Oh my God, like Dixon, it's like our father figure. Oh my God,
Mm.
like it got like to this he led us all the way up here and now he's like he's the one who has to shoot us. Oh my God." And then it got progressively more and more that I was like, "Oh, why did he do this? Why is he like this? Why is he like so evil?" Like, and then the intrigue was that Egil remembered him. He was like, "You're Zanza's disciple," and I'm like, "Whoa, Egil knows him, and that's why he knows Egil's dad." And I was like, "Oh my God,
Mm.
that's so cool." And then like it gets progressively more like you get more and more questions. So like, and then when you get to that final boss with Dixon, I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be like a really intense like dialogue between Shulk, Fiora, Dunban, Rhine, and Dixon, like their father figure.
Yeah.
But it really wasn't. It was just
Mm.
like and the line that kind of like hit me where I was like, okay, I'm just why was when he says something along the lines of Zanza tells me to fight and I fight and that's how I like it. And then my interest in him just like
Yeah,
plummeted.
he's like just a
I,
pawn
I'm
at
like
that point.
I was like, first of all, like you have thousands and thousands and thousands of years of history, and your only motive boils down to Zanza tells me to fight and I fight and that's how I like it. I'm like, there's so much like more like nuance even with someone like Metal Phase than
Mm.
Dixon
Yeah.
because Dixon just boils down to that one line and like Dixon's a cool guy, like he's got that swagger, he's got that accent, he's got that vibe. And then when he like was reduced to just like Zanza, tell me what to do, I'll do whatever. I'm like, "Oh, what is it's ridiculous." And then, but the one thing that could have saved it even after that was in that lead up to fighting Dixon, or even after you fight Dixon, or somewhere in there, or even like throughout the entirety of Xenoblade 1, if we got some flashbacks, some dialogue, I don't know if the heart to hearts go over this, but if the
Hmm.
heart to hearts do, like, tell me in the comments, anyone, but like, if we got some insight into what like his fatherly relationship with the party members was, aside from him being like Dunban's comrade during the war, then it would have made that final scene of his death hit so much harder. Because Shulk is like, "Oh, I can't do it, I can't do it," and then Fiora's like, "Shulk, like, what have we done?" And he's like, "No, I have to like look forward. I can't look back." And then um, Dixon's like, "Ah, the student became the master," and I'm like, "What am I supposed to feel here?" Like,
Yeah.
he was just there throughout the story, but like I don't really know how like Dixon was instrumental into Shulk's life versus like I felt so much more strongly for Van Damme when he
Hmm.
died to Rex because like you see how instrumental Van Damme is to Rex versus Dixon just like, "Hey, oh yeah, I'm back
Yeah.
here, like I'm selling you guys some weapons for the Mechon." It's just I didn't, yeah, so that's why I'm not the biggest fan
Hmm.
of Dixon.
Yeah, I do understand that. I feel like Xenoblade 1 has this kind of thing where it has like this very broad scope, and like it's like it has like this, there's so many things that need to happen, and there's like a lot of characters that have certain goals they reach by the end of the game. So it's like almost things like fell through the wayside. Like I feel like Dixon pretty much works for that story, but
Mhm.
there is just, like these little bits where his characterization, his motivations, they just don't line up as well.
Yeah.
And he's also like, he's not a really, I guess, understandable or like relatable villain in any way.
Yeah.
I feel like the only villain you really get in Xenoblade 1 that feels like a really complex character is probably Eggle. And
Yeah.
then Zanza is complex in different ways. Eggle is
Yeah.
like, you can see where he's coming from. Zanza is like an exploration in
Mhm.
like deification, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like Zanzo a lot, and we talked
Hmm.
about him a lot in the last episode.
Yeah.
And like a lot of people have issues with Zanza. I particularly do not. I think Zanza's a pretty
Mm.
cool representation of a villain.
Yeah.
Dixon though, like you look at Dixon, and then you look at freaking like Malos and Jin and N
Yeah.
and like
Just
and
doesn't compare.
like you said Bana, right?
Hmm.
Bana is a perfect example of what is of one of the many problems corrupting all rest. That
Mm.
greed, that like just absolute gluttony and
Yeah.
greed. And that is like a part of like he's the source of so many problems in like Argentum, Morardain, all that. And Rex references him at the very end when they're at the World Tree. Like someone is saying like, "Hey, what do we feel about humanity?" And like Rex is like, "There's some good people like us. There's some people who are like trying to be good, but then there's some really rotten people like that Bana." And you
Yeah.
like look back and you're like, "Yeah, that's like what this game is all about." Like
Hmm.
you see so many different sides of Allrest, and that's what the game is like showing you. So many
Yeah.
sides of this world, and how people can like bring down this world from an even like lower standing than it is.
Mm.
Whereas Dixon's just like he just
Yeah.
wants to
He doesn't really
whatever.
have that other than being a grunt for Zanza. Like
Yeah.
Dixon's story as like just himself, he doesn't really have like a theme or a lesson that you can glean from him. He's almost like a plot device in that way. And it
Yeah.
really speaks to that point when you mention how we don't really get to see how he factored into everyone's upbringing, because we get the
Mhm.
idea that like, oh, Dunban and Fiora's parents were out of the picture, so Dunban took care of everybody. Shulk, Fiora, and Ryan. He was like kind of their father figure. But then we also like, we're told that Dixon was a part of that, but then we don't really see it, and we
Yeah.
see it a lot more with Dunban just because we spend a lot more time with him.
Yeah.
And of course, we have moments like Dunban and Ricky talking about their kind of father role.
Yeah. But yeah, that's how I feel about Dixon. And one more thing about the villains is I even prefer characters like some of the Mobius. Like, of course, N is like one of my N is
Uh,
probably my favorite villain in the series.
yeah.
Zed is symbolically represented in his own way. I appreciate that. But then you also got like Yorin and Shania, who
Mm,
they're also ridiculed a lot, but like they have a very prominent message to
mm,
tell about the world of Ionios and the message of Xenoblade 3 with their character arcs. Even though Shania's is tucked away in a side story, which is still very good and nearly mandatory, but like it's
yeah.
still like still telling a story with their character arcs.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget when I was in a call with a friend and I was like, we'd have to finish this side quest, and he was like, "This looks like the final boss. What do you mean side quest?"
That's Xenoblade for you.
Yeah.
But you wanna go
Yes. Okay.
into your
So
first take?
my next hot take is actually not negative at all. It's complete opposite. Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Chapter 4 is not that bad. Or it's
It's
not
because
bad
of
at all.
Bano.
I actually like it.
It's because of Bano.
Yeah, it's because he's peak. It's just peak. So there's many understandable reasons why people don't like Chapter 4 of Xenoblade 2. It comes after this huge moment. You have Van Damme's death. You have like this big fight, and you suffer this great loss, and every character is just so caught up about it. And then you get introduced to Mithra, um, and your relationship with Mithra at the beginning is like really rocky. You're like, you don't know what to do. You know, she's mean. She's upset. You know, it's really tough for Rex to handle. And then Chapter 4 is just like a little more goofy, but you kind of need that. I think you need a reprieve from such a bleak moment. And I think it was done in a way where it worked. It wasn't like, oh, Van Damme died immediately, let's be goofy.
Yeah.
It kind of, it more subtly like led you into there. I think. Actually, I don't remember when you meet Zeke. Do you meet Zeke directly after that, or a bit
You meet Zeke
before?
for the first time in Araya, and then you meet him again later in chapter 4 actually. You meet him in
Hmm.
Morardane on the way to the old factory, and
Yeah.
then he joins your party in Lefteria slash Indal area.
Yeah. And then so we have the whole arc with Bana and like the other artificial blade, which a lot of people don't like, but I do think that that does hold more significance and weight. I think that like people really underestimate kind of the whole artificial blade thing and like what Poppy meant to that game, and then of course later
Yeah.
on we have the other artificial blade you meet in Xenoblade 3, the DLC character, and then obviously you see Poppy at the end of Xenoblade
Yeah.
3. Um, and just people hate Tora. That's another thing. Is like I guess my other hot take is Tora's not that bad. Like
Yeah.
I will clarify this. This is something I want to talk about in my video, but like everyone talks about Tora like he's like a gross pervert, but I don't know if he really is. I think he's just supposed to be like immature. Cause yeah, he had like the
Not a
costumes and
13-year-old kid,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, he's not fun. Ages are weird, but he's supposed to be pretty young.
Yeah.
He's way younger than Ricky.
Yeah.
He's got the costumes and stuff, but I don't think he was. I don't think he's like a sexual deviant. I think he's just a little weird.
Yeah, I think Tora gets a little too much hate. I
Hmm.
think from what I remember of my experience with Xenoblade 2, in the first few hours I liked Tora quite a bit because of his
Hmm.
reverence to Rex. I was like, oh, that's cool that like he can't resonate with a blade, but Rex can. He like looks up to him as like this idol. It's just that one Poppy made like that one cutscene is
Yeah.
like done irreparable damage
It
to
has
Tora's
too, and
reputation.
it's so like I don't know. It's like Rex and Pyra reacted exactly how you were supposed to react to that, but then everyone else or people in the discourse are like, "Look at how weird and gross this game is." It's like,
Yeah,
I don't think that's what they were going for.
yeah, yeah. But my thing with Chapter 4 is I'm always very hard on chapter 4. I always joke around by saying like I almost quit the game around chapter
Mm-hmm.
4. And like no, I even if I hated it even more, I wouldn't have quit the game. I
Yeah.
wanted to see it through till the end. Um it just felt like a lot of people say that Xenoblade 2 has a lot of like pacing problems.
Mm.
And I think in terms of pacing, I wouldn't say was the worst, but it might be a little bit more shaky than
Yeah.
the other two in my
It's
opinion.
like a speed bump.
Yeah, it was almost like a valley, like exactly like you said. You see Vandam's death, you see like Mithra reawaken, you learn about the Aegises. Like right after
Mm.
that, you
Oh yeah,
like
you get some
the
lore.
chapter. In chapter 4 is called Aegis.
Uh-huh.
So at the beginning of that chapter, you learn that Malos is also an Aegis. I was like, holy shit,
Mm.
Malos is an Aegis. What? And like you get that a little bit of backstory to the Aegis War and like what happened to Torna. So I was like, oh my God, we're gonna learn more about that. And now that Mithra is here, we're gonna like get more about that in this chapter. And then I was like,
And
oh,
then
more
yeah.
Arcane, let's go. The music is great, let's go. And
Mm.
then it just kind of like goes all over the place. And
But
like
you
that
get Mui Mui, the
yeah.
best villain.
Yeah,
Dude, like I genuinely really liked that arc where it goes into Tora's past and you get Mui Mui like coming out with his gun. Just like seeing a Napon just like strapped. That was just like really fun.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
that arc was genuinely really good.
yeah.
Um he
It also
Tora
comes
like
back
reunites
full
with his
circle at the
dad.
end. It
Yeah.
comes back at the end when you realize that the old factory was to develop those artificial blades that the Torna organization is using at the end to
Mm.
attack Indol and the World Tree and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then at the very end, you get Morag in your party, and you get
yeah.
to fight Mikhail and Petroka, which is such a great
Ooh.
boss fight. Like I thought that was so cool.
That was a tough boss fight, but it was a lot
Yeah,
of fun.
that
Yeah,
one that stumped me. So I was doing it playing Rex, and I kept losing. I lost like 5 times, and I was like, okay. So I switched to Morag. I did like full dodge tank build, and then
yeah.
like they could never hit me once. I was just like,
Nice.
I was, I was just absolutely gaming in
Yeah.
that moment. I didn't
And
record it. I wish I had it recorded so I could like show people how it happened, but
yeah. And that's the first time you hear one of my favorite songs in the game, which is Deathmatch for Torna.
mm,
That's a really great song. Also, you get to see Hayes for the first time in
yeah.
that in the end. So that's
Yeah.
a
That's the
nice
thing
moment.
is like you learn a lot more chapter 5 and 6.
Yeah,
Like you have the whole like Fan Lenorn / Hayes thing
yeah.
and Moradane? What was there? I can't. There's stuff I can't remember. But in chapter 5 and 6, you get like a lot more of lore and important story moments that
Yeah.
you
Yeah, chapter
were
5
maybe
is when you go
expecting.
to Letheria and Fonset, and then you go
Hmm.
to Indol right after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, chapter 4 is not bad. Problem is still my least favorite chapter in Xenoblade 2,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's a slight bump. But then right after that, I always tell people like, if you're not vibing with chapter 4, just play through it. Chapter 5 till the end is like peak
Yeah.
fiction,
Yeah.
phenomenal,
Absolutely.
as A says, phenomenal.
Hmm.
Um, this one is also like, in hindsight, this is not really a take. My next one, because
Hmm.
I couldn't think of anything for Xenoblade 2, which was like not already talked about quite a bit and not already mentioned in like our Twitter replies.
Yeah.
But this particular one is very silly, but this is more about how I felt before Xenoblade 3 even came out.
Mm.
So,
Okay.
like, Xenoblade 3 confirmed that all the ships in Xenoblade 2 revolving around Rex are 100% canon. He got
All
with
of them
Pyra,
are
Mithra,
canon at
and Mia.
once. Yeah.
Yeah, all at once with that one picture.
Uh-huh.
He's got yeah. It's an iconic picture. However you feel about it, but
I am.
before Xenoblade
I want to make a
3
note about
released,
that.
yeah,
I am going to. I'm gonna do my absolute best to make sure that my girlfriend does not get spoiled on that specific plot point.
hope she's not
I'm going to make
watching
sure she
this,
never
this
sees
part
that
of it.
picture until she
Yeah,
finishes Xenoblade 3.
yeah. Yeah. So this. take was more about how I felt before Xenoblade 3 even came out, but I'll still say it anyways because I still feel this way. Nia and Rex is almost a better ship than Numa and Rex, and Numa and Rex
Mm,
meaning like Pyra and Rex,
yeah.
Mithra and Rex. The reason I say that is because like the whole game, it's just like Pyra and Rex, like it's all meant to be like they're all romantic. It's all
Yeah,
like
the whole
it's
girl
their
meets
love
boy
story.
or boy meets
Yeah,
girl.
yeah,
I think yeah, that was literally the last chapter,
yeah. This boy meets girl,
right?
and the thing with Nia is she's my favorite character in Xenoblade 2, but I loved how she started off like very like hesitant and almost like condescending towards
Yeah.
Rex. And she was like, "Dude, you have no idea what you're doing. You have no like direction, like it's the delusions of grandeur and all that." And then you see her warm up to not only Rex but to everyone in the party. So when she like reveals herself that she's a flesh eater, that makes it all the more impactful and like it's all the more emotional. But like that's also just like the kinds of love stories and romance stories that I like the most, where
Mm.
like eventually like in the beginning they're like a little bit closed off, but then eventually like they just really open up towards the end. And I don't know what it was with Nia and Rex that resonated with me so much more than Pyra and Mithra and Rex.
Mm.
I like especially with Mithra, you don't like see her like a lot with Rex compared to like Pyra or Nia,
Yeah.
like as just solely
Some
Mithra
pretty big
is what I
moments.
mean.
There's Rule 5 of
Yeah.
the Salvager Code.
Oh yes, there is that, yes. But I also like me personally, we'll probably talk about this in many more future episodes to come, but
Mm.
and I think we've already talked about this. I can't remember if we have or not, but like that moment where Nia confesses her love to Rex and Rex's iconic response where he
Yeah.
friend zones her. It like of course it's so memeable. Everyone laughs at it, everyone jokes about it.
Mm.
To me, when I saw that, it was just the most like real, genuine Rex moment
Yeah.
ever. And like I was just like like in a game full of like so many like out of the box fantasy characters and like weird shit happening left and right, that was just a very raw genuine moment. And
Mm-hmm.
like that's what sold me on that ship more than
Yeah.
uh Pyra and Mithra and Rex or any of that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly agree. I think like I like the whole polycule thing. I think it's probably the only like the only polycule I've ever seen in fiction, and probably definitely the only one that works for me. Like
I've heard of
um
some others in some animes that have kind of like thrown the storyline in like a crazy direction, and now everyone just doesn't like that show or manga anymore. But like,
yeah,
that's not what Xenoblade 3 or Xenoblade 2 and 3 have done.
yeah. I kind of just like I at first I was like I appreciate the commitment to just having it's like no, he's just he everyone got together. And then I was like no, I actually like that cuz of the themes of like building a family and the themes of love. And I'm like, yeah, I mean that they only reach that point with genuine love
Yeah.
for one another. And I think that line is so powerful because not only is he's expressing his genuine love for everyone, but it's also he's expressing his acceptance for everyone because
Yeah.
Nia's big thing was not being accepted, having to hide who she really is, and being afraid of who she really is. And like that came out in her being abrasive at the beginning, and then like finally it all culminates with her accepting herself and then Rex
Yeah.
accepting her.
I remember a lot of people would say like, "Oh, I didn't like Nia at the beginning. Like Nia was annoying at the beginning. She was rude. She was mean." I'm like, if you remember everything she's been through, you can't really blame her. But
Yeah.
then eventually, like the beauty of that is seeing how she grows and she learns to accept and she learns to love those around her. And oh yeah, one more thing I want to say about this, one quick thing is um one of my favorite moments in Xenoblade 2 is at the very end when like Rex doesn't want to say goodbye to Numa
Mm.
Poppy is like so distraught. She wants to like help Rex in that moment to get over to the other side, but she can't. She made that promise. Every single person in the party like says something to Rex, like says like something like deep personally from the heart, like Rex, you like helped me so much. You like changed my life in this way. Like Zeke's is like a really hard-hitting one. Morax's is as well. If you remember, Nia just looks at him with like a very like sad, accepting face, and she just nods, and that just like oh, that always
Yeah.
hits me every single time. I'm like, you didn't need to say anything. I know what you're trying to say with that look. It's just great. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nia's the
Yeah.
best Xenoblade 2 character in
One of
my
the
opinion.
best characters in the whole series.
Yeah.
All
Um.
right. I okay, my next two or no, we're doing Twitter now. Twitter. First Twitter one.
Yeah.
Do you want to read this one or should I read it?
Um, I will read it because I sort of agree with some of these.
Okay.
So, we got our buddy Yggdrasil, who was a guest on our not our last episode, but the episode before that, where we talked
Mm.
about the possibility of a Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition. Check out his channel, by the way. Awesome dude, awesome guy. Um, so Yggdrasil has a few takes here. I'll share a few of them. So, the first one is Tatsu is an okay character brought down by Lynn's haha food shtick. I will get into that. I feel strongly about that. Al Weaver nailed Rex's casual conversations and attitude. I agree with that. Xenoblade 2 has better base combat than Torna. Ooh.
I agree with that
Okay,
one.
so since you haven't played X, I'll talk about the Tatsu thing real quick.
I
And
know that he
a
gets
few other
cooked in a
people.
soup. I think that's what this is about.
Huh?
Tatsu gets cooked in a soup.
Yeah, so you will see in Xenoblade X that Tatsu is like the mascot Napon, but he's always the butt of a reoccurring joke that is just very constant, and people actually no, people say it's very constant, but it only happens maybe a handful of times throughout the entire game. And every time it happens, it's to like provide a little bit of levity to this kind of like very serious, very like straight to the point, very serious game. It is a very serious game. It has its like light-hearted moments and its comedy, but overall it's a very serious game. But I had no problem with that joke. Because at first I was like, dude, everyone hates this Nopon. Everyone hates this joke. Like, how bad is it really? And I saw it, and I actually thought it was pretty funny every now and then. And when I was
Mm.
when I was streaming the game, I would like play along with it. I was like, I'm gonna choose to cook Tatsu in this way. Haha. And like when you know it's coming, it's really
You you
not that
get
bad.
input on how you cook him.
Yeah, it's
That's
really funny
awesome.
actually. Like it's not like hilarious, but
Mm.
it's fine. It's very
Yeah.
inoffensive. You want to talk about Al Weaver's
Sure. I mean,
performance?
yeah, Al Weaver, I guess the voice acting in Xenoblade 2 specifically, it gets some hate. It can be hit or miss, honestly. But I think
Yeah,
that like I think everyone was really well cast in general, and I think Al Weaver definitely struggles with some big like yelling moments. And the lip sync is not helping him at all in that way. Um, but I mean, I still like when he yells. I
yeah.
understand that when he
It
yells,
it
it's like
all
it takes you out of it.
it
But
happens. I can remember it specifically twice. It's in the
mhm,
beginning when
yeah,
he's like fighting Malice at the beginning on the Minoceros. I think that's what their ship is called or
yeah.
something. And then it happens again when Van Damme dies. Like that's
The
and
two that I remember is when he's in Elysium at the beginning of the game in like the dream sequence, and then he like puts his head in his hands and he's like in the grass. He's like, "Oh, I can't believe I'm dead." It was
I'm actually dead.
it was that one, and then I think it's when Numa first forms and he says join me, and
Oh,
the lip
that
sync is like really bad.
the lip sync is bad, but
Yeah.
I love that
No, it's
cutscene. So
such a
many
good
people
scene.
are like, "Oh, it's
It's
so
one of the best scenes in the game. But
so good. I
it's
love
one
it."
of those
And
things where you're only gonna notice it when you look back on it, because when you're in that moment, like you're so into it.
yeah, I'm curious to play with the Japanese dub. Maybe I'll do it. Like
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about like how am I gonna approach my Xenoblade 2 New Game Plus. I don't know if I want to do the Japanese dub because like a lot of my emotional attachment to the characters comes
Yeah.
from their English
No
voices.
more Welsh cats. Like, what's the
Yeah,
point?
no, that's the Nia like that's the thing I love the most about the dub is
Mhm.
Nia's dub is so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, Al Weaver's great. I think
Mhm.
he genuinely does great, and like as Yggdrasil says, in the quiet conversations, nails it, absolutely nails
Mhm.
it. Like especially like near the end, like the end game, it's just it's perfect. His
Yeah.
delivery is perfect. Like how he's talking to Malos at the end, how he's talking to the architect, how he like breaks down in that like the architect's test, like when he's like having dinner with Pyra and
Oh, that's
Mithra.
such a powerful scene.
It's so well done. Like and he's no Harry McIntyre. I personally
Yeah.
think Harry McIntyre is the best like performance for a protagonist, even
Yeah.
more than the amazing Adam Howden. Like Adam
Um.
Howden does great. Harry McIntyre is the GOAT. Like
Yeah, Harry McIntyre is kind of, yeah. He's kind of on another level. I've
yeah,
been
and
watching Natural Six here and
yeah,
there recently, and he's,
nice,
you know,
nice.
he's great.
Yeah, but yeah, Al Weaver is great. What do you wanna? You have anything to say about two having base game having better combat than Torna?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing about that. I I understand why Torna's combat is good, and I like it, but I don't understand how people say that it's better than Xenoblade 2. Because I feel like Xenoblade 2's combat, it's like, it has all this depth, it has so many mechanics that you need to like almost figure out on your own. You need to
Hmm.
like experiment. And there's a lot of things that are confusing. But the way that they changed certain things honestly made them more confusing. Like the
Hmm.
orbs, they so I don't get how the orbs
So
work. I'm not gonna lie, I don't
I
understand them.
kind of remember this, and if I'm wrong, someone can correct me in the
Mhm.
comments. But for Xenoblade 2, you had that chart, right? And the orb would
Mhm.
show up once you reached the level 3 combo at the end of the chart.
Yeah.
Whereas in Torna, you don't have to follow a path. If you follow a path, you get like a nice cutscene, you get a nice like buff effect or whatever. But no matter which stage you're on, you can like do whatever order. You can do like water, earth, wind, fire, water, or whatever.
Mhm.
And no matter what stage you're on, one, two, or three, you're gonna get an orb.
Yeah.
So I can understand that it made it a little easier because I realized that I only got like a handful of full bursts in base game of Xenoblade 2, and I had to
Yeah.
work for it. Whereas in Torna, every single tyrant, or sorry, unique monster or mini boss or final boss was always getting full bursts left and right. And in that moment, like that power fantasy, I was like, oh yeah, this is so cool. I'm full bursting. I'm like doing all this. It's all great. And like they made that party specifically. They like
Mhm.
created that party specifically for you to get full burst because you have two fire blades and then you have every other like element on your team. And that made it so you were able to full burst very easily, but I can see it from the other standpoint that like base combat was very strategic, whereas
Yeah.
Torna you just kind of like do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I also I felt that being able to switch between blade and driver was really cool, and especially being able to run around as the blades was like a really neat addition.
Yeah,
But
the Vanguard system was fun. That was
yeah,
cool.
was the actual method of breaking the orbs different? Because I feel like it was. I remember being really confused because it was something different.
So no, I think it's very similar. Instead of moving between drivers, it moves between teams. Like you have Team
Mm.
Laura, Team Hugo, and Team Adam, and each of those teams have like three party members. But each of those party members like corresponds to a different element.
Yeah.
So you choose whoever on that team you want to break that orb.
Mm.
So yeah, I think that's how it was. So
Yeah.
chain attacks were similar, but like getting those orbs up there was a lot simpler. But yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I appreciate Torna in some ways, in most ways, but I can agree with that. But you want to move on to your next take?
Sure, yeah. So, it's I have two. I'm just gonna do them both at the same time because they're kind of the same, honestly. Now that I think about it, and it continues on with what we are just talking about. So, I I talked about this a lot in the Xenoblade 2 Definitive Edition video, but I am not a fan of Xenoblade 2's side quest design, and I think it really hurts Torna's experience as a game. So, like, um, in your average Xenoblade player nowadays will start with Definitive Edition that came out in 2020 and will then go back in time to 2017 to play Xenoblade 2. So there's a lot of regression happening in quality of life.
Yeah.
The side quests aren't as intuitive, the menus load a lot slower. And just overall, the side quests in Xenoblade 2, I didn't find them engaging. They weren't easy, so they were like annoying to do.
Yeah.
And the whole mercenary missions and stuff
The
like
Merc missions, yeah.
those I pretty much neglected because I kept forgetting that they were there, and I was kind of annoyed by them. And then
I have a question for you.
okay.
How many Blade quests did you do?
Great question, because the answer is zero.
Oh,
I didn't
yes.
even know they existed.
Yeah.
Because that,
And like imagine going into Xenoblade 3 and not doing a hero quest and
yeah,
like
it's like,
it, and you'll understand this in X. Imagine going into X and not doing like a affinity mission
mhm,
because that's what the two Blade quests are supposed to be.
yeah,
They're supposed to be those important story level
yeah.
side quests.
I feel like I
And
really missed out
yeah,
on that because it was locked behind like the Merc missions, correct?
it was logged behind the
Or
Merc missions and the affinity chart
oh
because
man, yeah, just these two big roadblocks for me that, and I didn't even know Blade quests even like existed. I didn't know what they were.
and some of them are very poorly designed. Like the infamous one is Ursula's Blade Quest,
Oh, wait,
and many
Ursula's New
people have
Groove.
yeah, yeah, many people have described to me how bad that is, and I keep forgetting because every time I hear it, it sounds so dreadful that I just kind of like eliminate it
Yeah,
from my memory. I'm like,
yeah,
no. But I did one Blade Quest, which was sort of it wasn't required, but it was sort of like it was easier to just start and do and complete. It was Vess's Blade Quest. So I really enjoyed that because it was like voice and you got a nice blade at the end, and
hmm,
it was a very good quest, like very
yeah,
well written and all that. But then I started Wolfric's and Electra's, and then
mm,
I got to the point where I had to like fill out the affinity chart and do all this random crap, and I'm like, I'm not doing
yeah.
that.
That's why it's a new game plus thing for me.
Yeah.
Especially because on that first playthrough, it took me like the whole game to even understand how to unlock the nodes on the affinity chart.
Yeah.
There's certain things like even like the pouch items. Like when you take a pouch item and then it gives you a timer, it's like it's not intuitive for you to understand that you can take another pouch item and it'll unlock another node and you don't have to
Yeah.
wait for the timer or anything.
Yeah,
There's
that
so many
increases the
weird
trust.
game
Yeah.
design aspects of Xenoblade 2 that hinder the experience. They like chip away at it. And it's pretty annoying because it's like because those things are like when you get over them, they're really good. Like the stuff you get from the Affinity Chart are really good. The actual content in the Blade Quest are really good. But sometimes actually doing that stuff can be really tedious.
Yeah. That's Xenoblade 2 for you.
Yeah, and
But
then
I want to
Torna,
know your yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
want to know your thoughts on Torna
uh
because
huh,
that is where like I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles as a series in terms of side quests gets a lot of its criticism from Torna the
yeah.
Golden Country.
I think, I think it's almost the same problem. It's just it's negating fun by making you do busy work,
Yeah.
and like the thing is like there are so many games where the side quests are genuinely fun to do, And Torna has some good side quests, but it has a lot of them that I'm just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Like, I remember I kind of like Nop on hide and seek, like that was funny. But I remember there's a lot of side quests that are just kind of fetch quests, and you have to like go along these large stretches of land.
Yeah.
And you have to keep going through the same like 3 biomes because it's a DLC chapter and it's not, very big. So it really bogged down the experience, and just the
Yeah.
fact that they locked story content behind them
Yeah,
is just
that
really
was
annoying.
that was a weird choice that they did
Yeah.
that.
Well,
I'm yeah,
the thing is, it's not even necessarily a bad thing that they did it. It's just how
yeah,
they did it, because
yeah,
I think they asked way too much of the player, and like
yeah,
expected them to put up with so much in order to get to the
yeah.
next story content that I think it was a bit ridiculous.
That level 4 threshold has you do it forces you to do so much side quests. So
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. For me, I I'm in the minority where I didn't have that much of an issue with it because the way I play a lot of RPGs is like every time I see a side quest, I'll accept it. Every
Mm.
time I see someone else give a quest, I'll accept it. So like during the downtime between like story stuff, I will do the side quests.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was up to date on most of them, but I do remember the last stretch when you had to do that level 4 community. That was where like maybe 2 or 3 play sessions were just dedicated to side
Yeah.
quests. And I was like, I gotta get these
So
done.
tedious.
But yeah, we will be talking about Torna a little
Yeah.
bit later on as well. All right, so it's my turn for my next take, and this one is about Xenoblade 3, and this one is something I'm like pretty pretty vocal about. I actually made an
Mm.
entire video about it, and I forgot to say this in the beginning of the video, but I was telling Kevin a lot of my Xenoblade 3 videos still get a lot of views, and there's
Mm.
some hilarious comments in those videos. And maybe if we have time at the end, I might share some of those comments because they're so funny. Like they're actually hilarious. And one of those videos relates to this. And basically, here's what I had to say. People were way too obsessed with callbacks in Xenoblade 3 that it hurt their enjoyment with the game. The lead up was fun, but after that, they refused to see the game for what it is. And
Mm.
like, Kevin, I know you played Xenoblade 3 last year, so it
Yeah.
was like after the lead up and the hype. That was one of the most fun lead ups for a game ever because you were like, oh my god, this reference in Xenoblade 1, this reference in
Uh-huh.
2, oh my god. Like we genuinely like in the beginning we thought it was gonna be like Avengers Endgame. We thought it was
Yeah.
gonna be like everyone coming together. At the end it's gonna be like Rex, Shulk, everyone like,
Uh.
and then we started to realize like, oh, this is its own story, own characters, own cast. Like that's great. It looks
Mm.
good. But how does this relate back to Xenoblade 1 and 2? Like that was the big thing with this game. How does it relate back to 1 and 2? How does,
Mm.
because this was pre Xenogears for me. This is pre like appreciating Takahashi's like grand scope. So I
Yeah.
didn't really understand like the significance of what 3 was trying to do. So I kept thinking like, ooh, how is this all connected? Like that's another thing I might mention a little later on, but like that was the big like factor into the hype.
Mm-hmm.
How the worlds of Bionis and Mechonis, the worlds of Bionis and Allrest come together. Like, what does all that mean? Where are all the returning characters? Like, we got a hint for Melia and Nia. This was hilarious. I think Yggdrasil might remember this, but there was a TV spot where we hear Ethel's
Ooh.
voice, and some of us thought that that was Tyrea's voice instead of Ethel's, and we're like,
Uh.
because I remember so many people were saying like Pyra and Mithra like with what this game is leading up to be they're 100% going to be back in this game, like no
Mm.
shot, like Melia near coming, Pyra and Mithra obviously going to be in here, and then they weren't, and then
Well, they were a little
yeah,
bit.
this was just base game, by the way, this
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
base game, but like everyone was like like shocked, and
Mm.
then even in like the lead up, everyone was like, Tyrea and Dromark will have to be in this game because like if they're the queens, like they have to have like a right hand.
Yeah.
They need to have like someone with them in the castle. And this is back when we thought that those were the legitimate actual queens.
Uh-huh.
And then there is still no Dromark or Tyrion. We're like, oh, what? But if you look into it, like a lot of this makes sense with what the story they're trying to tell, the laws of origin, what is like going on with this world. Like it all makes sense. But it really soured a lot of people. Everyone was like, this is not what we signed up for. This is not what they like marketed to us. This is not what they also advertising. And I'm like, now that's just you refusing to look at anything regarding this game. You're
Yeah.
not looking at any of the powerful character moments, the like impactful story that it's trying to tell, and like people like that always wanting the callbacks, always
Mm-hmm.
wanting the references, all that. It it just goes against the whole like message of Xenoblade 3. And
Yeah.
when I realized that, I was just like, wow, like I've never like felt that profoundly for a game in terms of like the message it's trying to tell and how it's like going over so many people's heads.
Yeah.
Like the whole
The it's the people in Zed's audience. That's
yes,
like exactly what
all the
it is.
people in the theater. It's
Yeah.
like it's like Ouroboros is all about like embracing your past, embracing your legacy, but using that to walk to the future and
Yeah.
build out a new future.
Mm-hmm.
And like everyone's like, "Oh, why did Xenoblade 3 even need to exist then?" Because that's what like Xenoblade 1 and 2 were all about. But yeah, like the worlds need to come together. And the whole point of this like saga is like you have to walk towards a future hand in hand. And it's not easy. Like the
Yeah.
two worlds coming together, they want to cancel each other out. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. The second thing is they're two very different kinds of people from both worlds. Them meeting for the first time, them like kind of like getting acclimated with each other. Like the Kevis and Agnes War is analogous and symbolic of them learning to come to terms with each other.
Yeah.
Because I could go into so much about this, how like it's not meant to be, but like that's the whole point of Ouroboros, because it's like there's just so much into it. But like I will like end by saying like if you want to callbacks, you got Future Redeemed. That
Yeah.
was like a dream come true for me, especially like. But the coolest thing about 3 was how it hinted at the callbacks when you saw
Mm-hmm.
the statues, and like that was just such an amazing moment when I saw the statues and I was like, oh god, like this, like oh my god, the lead up to even the DLC was so mind-numbing because the
Yeah.
same people who wanted Xenoblade 3 to have those callbacks were saying that Xenoblade 3's DLC should be a sequel, and I'm like, did you not see the statues? Did you not see your
Uh-huh.
beloved callbacks in the form of statues which are hinting towards the legitimate DLC? And what do you want in a sequel where like everyone's gonna be living happily? Like that's not like that's not a good story. Like, imagine if we got that. That would have sucked. Oh, but yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I still want little OVA of like the Rex family. I think I mentioned that a few times,
yeah.
but what was it? Um I feel this a lot with Future Redeemed because I feel like people got really caught up with the fact that Shulk and Rex were back.
Hmm.
But it's in a very different form. Cause in my eyes it's not the same thing. Excuse me, I have like a burp that's like stuck in here right now.
You're good.
It's not the same thing as like, oh, all the protagonists are back and like Shulk and Rex are the protagonists again. Cause they're not. They're just in your
Yeah, they're
party.
not.
Matthew's the protagonist. And it's really important that Matthew's a new character. It's not like, oh, it's not like you get introduced to Noah and then Noah just like meets Shulk or something and they go on an adventure.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the reasons that I really dislike The Force Awakens, because you get introduced to Rey and Finn and Poe and then they just hang out with Han Solo for a while and
Yeah,
Han Solo just
Han
like
had a
eats up so
way
much
bigger
screen time.
involvement in that story than he should have. That's what I
Yeah.
liked about Luke's involvement in the movie.
Yeah.
Is that everyone's like, "Where's Luke Skywalker? When's Luke gonna come out and like
hmm
kill everyone with his lightsaber?" And he was at the end. And I was like,
Yeah.
that was a good choice
So
that they
Luke
put
in
him at
The
the
Last
very end.
Jedi is a lot like Shulk in Future Redeemed. That's probably intentional, actually, now that
Yeah,
I think about it. But it's like it's a re-examination of this character. He's not the main character anymore, but he's imperative to the narrative. That rhymes. And he's like, you know,
he's changed.
he's
He's
changed. Yeah,
changed
he's in
over
a different
time.
stage in life. It's not fan service. It's almost antithetical to fan service,
Yeah,
but it's more
and
real.
that's what I liked about Shulk and Rex. They feel a little bit jaded. They feel a little bit older. You
Hmm.
can still tell that they're the same people, especially Rex. Like
Yeah.
when people were saying like that's not my Rex, what happened to Rex? I'm like, you were sleeping in Xenoblade 2 if you think that's not
Uh.
Rex. Yeah, and like yeah, it's I think Future Redeemed did it perfectly because
hmm
like I said, Ouroboros is all about embracing your legacy, embracing the prior generations, learning from those prior generations,
hmm
embracing all those lessons, and cultivating a new future. And that's what the whole party of Future Redeemed is. It's three legacy characters, um, Alvis slash A,
Yeah.
Rex, and Shulk. And then there's the new blood, which is Matthew from the city, Glimmer from Agnes, Nicole from Kevis, and then you also have Niall as well,
hmm
and like it's so symbolic, and like a lot of people are like, yeah, what was the story that Xenoblade 3 is trying to tell? And that's what it boils down to. It is the story of Ouroboros and Mobius,
hmm
and you can see that in all the other games, but it came to a head in 3 because that is the story of these worlds like coming together, and it's not gonna just be like, oh, they come together and it's
Yeah, all the
whatever.
characters meet and they dap each other up and stuff.
Yeah,
It's like no,
that's
there's a lot
initially
of
like
other issues. And the thing is, as well, is
yeah,
like that game was a lot about how hanging on to the past can be such a self-destructive thing, and that's kind of like what these callbacks are. It's like they're just hanging on to the past. It's like,
yeah,
that's what The Force Awakens was to me. It was trying so desperately to rekindle like the
um,
original Star Wars trilogy that it didn't push the envelope forward. And
and that's what Kylo Ren's character was. He was like, I have to
yeah.
kill the past, but he was not doing it in like the way that it should have been done
Uh-huh.
and
I
all that.
even like okay, so this is slightly off topic, but there was never a moment I enjoyed Star Wars more than sitting in the theater and seeing when he says like kill the past, let them die, let the Empire and the First Order, fuck all of that shit. I was so excited because I thought they were gonna go in like a radically new direction. Unfortunately, they kind of didn't, but that was so cool.
Yeah,
But that's the thing that Xenoblade 3 kind of does. That it it has this struggle against the past and the future, and it shows not only like how hard it is to move on, but that it's so important.
yeah, it's yeah, and you very clearly see that symbolically with Mobius. Of course, they don't like a lot of them don't have as immense of character development as someone like Jin or Malos or Malthus, but
Mm.
you see Jin, Malos, and Malthus, they embody a lot of Mobius in them as well.
Mhm.
So like it's not as like directly
Mhm.
symbolic, but look at any Xenoblade villain. Like I was telling this to one of my friends this weekend. Look at any Xenoblade villain, you can see Mobius in them.
Yeah.
And that's why Mobius is the culmination of the like underlying antagonistic force within Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, that's my thing with Xenoblade 3. We'll probably get into this more when we get into more community takes. Do you want
Yeah.
to do another community take?
I think so. Yeah. I think
Okay.
I can
This
get this
one I also
one.
feel very passionate about. So,
Okay.
um,
This one's from our buddy Mac.
yeah, so
Uh
Max says You want to read it out?
Okay, oh yeah, I'll read it. All right, Xenoblade 2 has the weakest OST in the series. I like the old Xenoblade 1 art style more than Definitive Edition. Okay, these are both two takes that I highly disagree with.
I will say the art style one, I can get behind that. I can get
I
behind
can
that because Xenoblade one
understand.
had a very iconic, like, gritty, realistic look to it, which it looked good. It looked good
Hmm.
for like that time, especially the key art and the character art
Yeah.
looked very good.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
say in terms of the 2D art, I honestly agree. In terms of the actual in-game graphics, I disagree.
Yeah.
um,
And real quick tangent, but the upgrade of the character models in X, this is another like very quick flash of a hot take is
yeah.
that might be my favorite look of of Xenoblade characters on the Switch.
Okay. Okay.
Like, but that we've only seen like 3 or 4
Yeah.
faces, so I want to see more before
It's good
making
though.
that
Like it
look
genuinely
really good.
looks. It genuinely looks like a step forward graphically. It's kind of weird being a remake. Like it almost looks better than Xenoblade 3, just
It
like
looks really
modeling
good.
and shading wise.
Yeah,
But
but
to the OST point.
you go first because I have a lot to say
Okay,
about this.
so I don't think I could even rank the OSTs like. I don't think I could rank the OSTs like one's better than the other, honestly. But I don't know. Xenoblade 2 has so many iconic tracks,
Yeah, my
and
thing is music is a very subjective thing. It's
yeah,
very subjective. Like I can say with full confidence that like just some random like video game soundtrack, like I don't know, like Sonic Rush on the DS.
okay,
Uh,
that's a
I
good
just
one.
it's a good soundtrack, but it's like it's very weird kind of soundtrack. It's like
Yeah.
it's very good still. I really enjoy it, but it's not like a very traditional kind of
Uh-huh.
soundtrack. I can say with full confidence that that's the best OST I've ever listened to in my life because like music is just that subjective. If it like
Yeah.
hits you that way, it's going to move you in that direction.
Mhm.
Or for Xenoblade 2, here's the thing. What puts 2 and three's OST above 1, I wouldn't say significantly because 1 has a lot of iconic melodies.
Mhm.
Very powerful iconic melodies like Gower Plain, Saturn Martian Night, the main theme, like a lot, You'll Know Our Names, a lot of these
Zanza the
iconic
Divine.
Zan's the Divine, like a lot of these iconic melodies. What puts 2 and 3 above 1 for me is those songs, and many of those songs tell their own story.
Yeah.
Like me loving RPGs, many of us love RPGs. We love those leitmotifs, and
Mhm.
they're littered in Xenoblade 2 and three's OST. Like that, like, and when you hear those songs throughout the game, remixed in different ways, it legitimately tells a story that no character dialogue can ever do.
Mhm.
And I can only remember that like I recently replayed one. One only does that like once or twice. There's the leitmotif of the main theme, which you hear in Shulk and Fiora's theme as well. And then there's a song called Memories, which is like the sad, like nostalgic theme. But that song comes back in the Alchemath theme, and you're like, oh, what does that mean? What is that trying to
Mhm.
tell? So there's that, but then in Xenoblade 2, you have the Elysium theme, which is used in so many different ways. And as you go throughout the game, you experience so much, you like learn so much about these characters and their ups and downs, and then you, in that moment where Rex is like, Pyra Mithra, join me, when Tomorrow with You plays, and it
So
gets to that part where the Elysium theme plays, it just always gets to me because you it just hits you like a train. You're like, this is what this game is.
good.
Like
Mhm.
in this moment he's saying like I'm not gonna go to Elysium without you guys, and that song it just kicks in at the right moment, and like it's like telling its own story. And then one more
Mhm.
thing, like 3 has its whole lot
Yeah.
of freaking leitmotifs, but one thing I'll defend with 2 is Counterattack is like Rex's theme. It's like the party's theme. Whenever they're down, they counterattack plays and they like achieve that victory. They win that fight. And then you like learn more about Malos and you learn like how he's struggling and you learn how he doesn't want to be in this situation. And then you realize like Amalthus is like the one who's influencing him and all that. And then you get to that final boss and you're like, what am I going to experience? And then he's like really getting at Rex is like, show me what this means. Show me what the meaning of life is
Uh-huh.
from your perspective. Like, teach me what you have learned throughout this journey. And then that song plays, and then you kind of like
Beyond
you're
hope
kind of
and
like
despair.
you're kind of like, this sounds familiar. And for a while, it took me a while to realize, but it's using a lot of melodies from Counterattack, which is
Uh-huh.
Rex's theme, and it's like Malice is like, I wish my life was like this.
Yeah. And
I
then
don't want to be in
even
this situation.
at the
It's
end
just
of the fight, Rex like alludes to that as well. He's like, wouldn't it be different if like
it's
if we could understand each other more, if we could be friends or something?
so good, so good. And
Yeah,
that's not
that's the
even
thing.
including any of the area themes. Area themes in
Yeah.
New Peak.
Um, when I think about Xenoblade boss themes or like final boss themes, my mind immediately goes to Zanza the Divine. I know that's not what the song is called. That's just what the boss is called. But then the Divine from Future Redeemed. Like I think
Yeah.
of those two, but Beyond Hope and Despair is genuinely such a good final boss theme. Like it's
Okay.
crazy. So it's like I kind of like I don't feel super strongly about ranking the OSTs, but calling Xenoblade 2's OST the weakest is going way too far for me.
Yeah. I don't think ones is bad. Like, I love ones. Like, there's so many
Yeah.
amazing like iconic melodies in one, and then even like the cutscene. Like, I'm talking about like outside of area themes and battle
Mm-hmm.
themes. Like, Tragic Decision, one of the most iconic songs in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we part ways, oh, they very sparingly use that song. They use it like the 3 or 4 times in the entire game, and then in the
Mm-hmm.
end when Shulk is like in that like memory space and like his friends come out and they're like, Shulk, we don't want to be gods, we just want to live together one day at a time, and that song plays, it
Yeah.
just hits in that moment.
And so one thing I'll point out about 2 is like it has Drifting Soul. It's like, do you need any more? It has
Yeah.
Drifting Soul. But then
But
also
one
the
also does have Beyond the Sky, which
yeah, I
is
was about to say the ending themes are all great, but Beyond the Sky might be the best one. Beyond the Sky and Future Awaits might be the best ending themes.
Oh, now that we're talking about OSTs, here's another quick hot take. Oh, this
Okay.
one's gonna get me under fire quite a bit.
Okay.
Um, A Step Away and Where We Belong are both very, 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 very good songs.
Hmm.
In terms of like the song, I think I prefer the other vocal melodies, and even A Moment of Eternity, I really like that song. Very incredibly underrated song. But I will say, even though I like the other songs better, I think A Step Away and Where We Belong were used in the game better than
Okay, yeah.
any of those songs.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a quick one.
I think
But
those are really good.
yeah, you wanna go next?
Okay, yeah, my next one is the consoles in Xenoblade 3 served their purpose perfectly.
Oh yeah,
Because there's a lot of people that really hate the consoles in Xenoblade 3. They're like, "Oh, they're boring. They're just like jobbers. They're lame." And they
Saturday
kind of
morning
like,
villains.
yeah, and
I
I'm almost like, "Did you like play the game?" They're not like supposed to be like the big villains of the game. Like N and Z are the big villains. It's like
yeah
these guys, they have their plots and some of them are really impactful, like
yeah
the side stories. Um and like some of the other ones like D and
yeah
J.
yeah. You're in
Mhm.
Dirk, Shania.
Yeah.
Yeah, so some better than the others, but the way some people describe the consoles, like, oh, I don't remember J, I don't remember I don't remember K, I don't remember W. I'm like, do you want to?
Yeah, it's like
You're not supposed
they're just
to.
like they say Saturday morning cartoons. It's like that's kind of right because they honestly like they feel very inspired by like a show like Kamen Rider or something or like an old anime like if you watch any of the old Kamen Riders or even like the new Shin Kamen Rider movie, it's like a lot of the encounters with the console kind of remind you of those. It's like, you know, one episode you fight the spider og, and the next episode you fight like the dragonfly og. But it's like you have these you know, different kinds of villains that you fight throughout the game, but it's mostly those fights mostly amount to intellectual battles that help the party grow closer to each other and help them establish their worldview and establish their rebellion against the system that they've been put in.
And
So
establishing connections with other soldiers in Ionios,
yes, so
and helping them realize that these consoles are exactly as goofy as they should see them,
yeah,
instead of a
so
malevolent force.
yeah, that is the purpose of the consoles. The purpose of the consoles isn't to be a big complex villain. Most of the consoles are like intentionally kind of stupid because they are completely suckered in. They're almost like a cult. They're suckered into Zed's ideal of the endless now. They're
They are the
just
avatars of Zed.
yeah, and the whole thing about the endless now is they're literally just spinning their wheels. They're like not moving anywhere in life. They're just trying to be like in stasis and like grow fat and rich on the suffering of others. Um and it's like I just find it almost baffling when people don't understand that like that's their purpose and see how that they went about like playing out their role in that
Yeah.
game.
And it's like Takahashi says in the recent interview in Ionios Moments, he's like, Zed and the Mobius are the people who are just they want to be sedentary and stagnant and just consume. They want, like, how did Takahashi say? It's like, I want to make more money. I want to go to this five-star restaurant
Yeah,
because I want to have the best food.
because it
I want
amuses
to
me.
gain more power. It's
Uh-huh.
like, I remember you described it as like Mobius is like the Zed almost. Zed in a way is like the man. He's like the guy
Yeah,
who's like above everyone else,
you
who's
fight
like,
the
no,
man.
this is how we're gonna do things. This is how it's going to be. But then the Mobius are like, oh, that's how it's gonna be. Yeah, then I'm straight
Yeah.
chilling. Yeah. But that stagnation is symbolically shown in very different ways throughout the series. But
Mhm.
like Mobius played their part and they
Yeah.
did it perfectly, I think. Yeah.
Mhm.
But, yeah.
All right, your
Um,
next tick.
okay, mine. Okay. I'm almost at the end of mine. I have one about Xenoblade X, and then I have a surprise one which I won't talk about until I get
Okay.
to that. But
Okay.
so this one is going to hurt a lot of the X fans. And just so you know, I love all the games very much. They're all like phenomenal experiences. I'm very excited to replay X, put another 100 hours into that game. But
Uh-huh.
I will say, here's how I said this. X's world doesn't interest me as much as Bionis, Alrest, and Ionios. And that's
Mm.
just because, like, I will preface this by saying many people will flat out oppose that and say Mira is way more expansive and filled with lore and secrets and discoveries and tidbits and all that. Like, there's so much more to unpack than Bionis, Alrest, and Ionios. But to me, I am just more attached to Bionis, Alrest, and Ionios because of the story, the characters,
Mhm.
how they all factor into that entire Klaus saga. I particularly like Bionis and Mechonis because of, like, that's just an insane, like, concept. You're
Yeah.
on two
Just
titans.
like
Uh,
genuinely the structure of it. Like when you
yeah,
climb up the at the beginning of the game you climb up and you're like on the knee and then
Yeah.
you can see the Mechonis. It's so interesting how that
Yeah.
whole map is set up.
I was talking to my friend Upper Nimbus recently, and he was saying like it didn't click with him that he was climbing up the Bionis until they kept talking about the Bionis leg, the Bionis kneecap, and you're like,
Yeah.
holy shit, I'm actually on there right now. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's amazing. Allrest is amazing to me because I love the towns, I love the civilizations, I love the different kinds of people in each of the Titans. I love how
Mhm.
each Titan feels so different and unique.
And
Ionios, I don't, huh?
I think Allrest has such a profound like almost analogy to like real world ecology
Yeah.
because the Titans die and sink. So it's like
Mhm.
you're literally in this world where people live on living beings and they're actively killing them
Yeah.
with, all this like industrialization and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's like
Yeah.
really profound to like speak about things like climate change, like ecological issues in the real world.
Yeah. You know, it's even more symbolic is once the Titans die, they fall down into a like
To
destroyed
Morpha,
Earth.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. Um Ionios, many people dislike Ionios for like it makes sense why people do because it's just not as visually appealing. There's no towns, there's only like colonies, people are at
Mhm.
war. It's a war-torn country. The reason I like Ionios is because of Origin and what Origin has done to create Ionios and what Origin like how Origin governs Ionios. That
Mhm.
is the most interesting thing to me about Ionios and Xenoblade 3. And I'm not going to get into any like no story spoilers for X or anything, but I will just say there are a lot of secrets about Mira that we still do not know, and I'm
Mhm.
hoping that this additional story gives us way more to unpack because Mira in itself is very cool. You got 5 different continents. It's easily the best open world to explore and just run around in the
Mhm.
entire series, and just seeing all the enemy designs and like flying around your scale, that in itself is like top tier in terms of just gaming in general, not just
Yeah.
Xenoblade. But learning more about the civilizations and the world itself, I'm looking forward to getting a new kind of respect for that once I play
Mhm.
XDE. But
Yeah. It
yeah,
seems
Mirror just
like
doesn't hit as much as the
yeah.
other three to me.
It seems like people like Mira a lot because of its gameplay aspect because it's almost um like technologically advanced. Like the fact there's
Yeah,
no loading screens or anything. Like even today, that's like crazy.
yeah,
Um, but story wise, it doesn't seem to have the same kind of staying power as all the
yeah.
other settings in the Xenoblade series. And
A
I guess
lot of that has
that's
to do, yeah.
it's
A lot of
because
that
it's
has to do,
outside of the
yeah.
Klaus saga. It's
Hmm.
outside of kind of this through line. I think Xenoblade 3 has the best exploration in the Klaus saga, but
Hmm.
Xenoblade X might still have better exploration or world design just based on what I've heard. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of the world itself and not being as like interesting in terms of like the lore and the world building, a lot of that is sort of the factor of like the incomplete story, but that's hopefully going to be fixed. Like I said, there's a lot of secrets about Mira that we just don't know, and I'm sure we're gonna get more insight into those.
Uh huh.
So yeah, all right. Um, let's do a few community takes back to back
Okay. Okay.
because
That sounds good.
we have a lot to do. Okay,
Yeah.
so this is our buddy Arkery, one of our
Oh boy.
a lot of
I'm
friends joining in
excited.
on this. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
But this is a fun one because a lot of us get onto him about this take, but it's funny to uh chat about, but let's see what he has to say here. So Xenoblade 2 is fucking fantastic. One of my favorite games of all time, but one is okay at best. It has some good moments and Melia and Albus are peak, but in general I couldn't care less. Even if I really wanted to love it. I would elaborate, but character limit and have a video on this. Yeah, guys, check out Arku's video because he goes into like there's some people who just hate on Xenoblade 1 because they're haters, but
Mm-hmm.
Arcry made like a full-on 1 hour video about how he truly feels about the game, so you guys should check that out. It's a really
Yeah.
good video, very good
Very
stuff.
articulate. I think like
Yeah.
it's because it's he the way he worded this. It's like, this is a hot take. This is a very hot take. But in his actual video, it doesn't. It's like he just articulates his view so well that it doesn't even seem like he disliked the game. He's just
Yeah.
like explaining how he felt about it.
There are some aspects of his video where I almost had to second guess myself. I was like, oh wait, does that part actually kind of suck? And then I was like, oh no, no, no.
Yeah.
In hindsight, how I originally felt about it, I was fine with it. But then I can definitely see how
Yeah.
he doesn't vibe with it.
Uh-huh.
I remember just talking, like, of course, watching this video, and then just in casual conversation, a lot of it had to do with how the characters are just portrayed a lot better in Xenoblade 2 and 3,
Yeah.
which I definitely agree with. Characters and villains and stuff, there's more to it, but that is one thing that Xenoblade 1 doesn't have above the others, I think.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say that when I first played Xenoblade 1, I played it at like the perfect time because I was really getting back into JRPGs. It was like, I'd always loved JRPGs, and even like, I think, what year was this? I'm trying to remember. Okay, so in 2021, I played through, in 2021, I played through Final Fantasy VII Remake. And I loved that game. And then I played through Tales of Arise, and I played through some other Tales games. So I kind of like, I was just coming off of Tales of Arise, which is a game that its story isn't really that deep, in my opinion. I had some certain expectations of just like general JRPG tropes. So when I
Yeah.
went to Xenoblade after a few Tales games, it really like made a big impact on me because I was like, oh, this is so much more philosophical, and like the world building is so rich. It's almost like it's almost like a real like sci-fi novel like Dune or something. Like it was so intense. And then like I kept having that feeling like going forward with all the games. But then I looked back at the first one and I'm like, oh, it's actually not
It's
not
it's
as
it's a little more
it's not as
simplistic.
deep as I thought it was like when I
Yeah.
first played it.
Just, I'm so excited for you to finish Gears because when you finish
Hmm.
Gears and you see how Gears is incorporated into each of the Blade games, it's
Ooh.
it's so mind-blowing, and like especially 2 and 3, you're just
Hmm.
like when 2 like Takashi had to play it a little safe with 1,
Yeah.
but then he was like, I'm gonna go
Mm.
all out in 2 and 3, and
Yeah.
he
I think
did.
it worked though
Yeah.
because I would kind of compare Xenoblade 1 to being more like Star Wars or like Harry Potter or something, where it has like this big scale, like it's very epic, but it has a lot of mass appeal. And Xenoblade 2 and 3 are a little bit more like Dune or something. Like they're much more uh, tightly constructed, and they have like goals that they set out to do and like hit them exactly. With
Yeah.
Xenoblade 1, it had like a lot of things that it did pretty well, but it didn't like really focus in on like one theme or
Yeah.
like one really specific thing. But I
It
feel
was
like that
focused
worked in
on
its
giving you
favor.
that nice, good, concise narrative,
Yeah, and
which
like pretty well rounded as well.
yeah, and
Whereas
yeah,
in 2 especially, I felt like they really honed in on like character relationships. So I feel like pretty much I'm sure some people will disagree, but going from the cast of 1 to 2, it's like you feel so much more connected with the cast of 2 because they all feel much more well-rounded. Like
yeah,
I thought about this a lot. I'm like, I loved Ryan. I loved him. I thought he was such a great character, but he's kind of just some fucking guy when you compare him to someone like Zeke, where he's got like so much history to him. He's got like
yeah.
all these different
It's
like
the motivation and
nuances.
backstory that
Yeah.
fleshes those characters out
Yeah.
into. Yeah, and Takashi sort of had to play it. He had to play it safe with
Yeah.
1 after like the chaos of Gears, the chaos of Saga, the failure of Saga.
And
He
it,
was
it was
like,
him returning to the director's chair for
yeah,
the first time since 2006, 5 with Xenosaga 1.
Saga
He didn't
1, the
direct
last one.
2 or 3, as far as I'm aware.
I don't even think he directed 1. I think he was just, again, scenario writer and executive director,
Oh
while
yeah, okay.
Kojima was the main director.
Mm.
He was like, yeah, I can't do everything like last
Yeah,
time,
I'm
which
sure Gears burnt him out a lot, but
dude,
yeah,
Gears is insane, dude. The more I look into it, it's crazy how that game got made and
yeah,
the like state that it is
yeah,
in. But with one, he had to play it safe after many hitches, and I think he did a good job, and it brought in a lot of people. But
yeah,
after the success of one, after playing around with stuff more in X, he felt more confident to just like go full out with 2 and 3,
yeah.
and I'm happy that he
Mm.
did. But yeah, we'll do one more community take, and then we can go to your next one.
Okay.
So, Swice Senpai says, as much as I think all three Xenoblade games have fantastic combat, I still think Xenoblade 2 has the most variety, fun, and challenging combat of the trilogy. And I know Swice is very big on like combat and like boss battles and like especially like
Yeah,
builds and customization with the characters and combat. So it's that's very interesting coming from him, and
yeah,
especially with 2, there's so many options, so many like customization like things you can do, and just the breadth of availability with the blades and the combos and
mm.
the blade combos, the driver combos, the fusion combos, all the different kinds of R's is there's so much variety
Yeah.
in that game. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get where he's coming from. I think he definitely knows his stuff. Like, he's very into action RPGs. Um, but I don't know. Something about the combat in Xenoblade 3 just always seemed a lot more in depth to me. I think it's because of all the different classes and because of the character switching on the fly and like
Yeah.
all these setups you can do and all the customization that you can do. Whereas with the blades, it doesn't feel as it doesn't feel like you can mix and match as much.
Yeah. You're a little
But
restricted
it's
in terms of which blade you're gonna pull in the gacha as well.
yeah, yeah. Also, the gotcha system really hinders that game. But it is like a super complex system that even I'm sure I haven't like fully gotten all the depth of. But I don't know. I feel like
Yeah.
2's combat is really good, but I don't think I can agree with this one.
Yeah.
I think 3 is just gonna be my goat.
3 is good. I like it because of the team composition,
Mm-hmm.
but I do agree with a lot of this. I didn't have this problem, but a lot of people had this problem where you're relying way too much on chain attacks in 3. Like
Yeah.
you always keep doing chain attacks. That's your main source of damage, all that stuff. And I
Uh-huh.
agree with that, but I loved how they did chain attacks in 3 because
I
like
never
it
got bored of it.
the music is fun. It's all part of the team
Uh-huh.
customization. Like if you have this many attackers, you can do this many things. If you have this many like tanks, you can do this stuff. If you only have tanks or healers, you can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
Like it, you're rewarded with having that level of customization within the classes, which is easier to do in 3.
Mm-hmm.
In 2, what I like, instead of like throwing everything all out like you would do in like 1 or a little bit of X and a little bit of 3, in 2 you're kind of like building up to like that. You're going from like your arts to your specials and doing your
Mm.
combos on the sides to level up your arts and specials even more. Then you're doing the blade combos, you're adding the
Yeah.
orb. So it's like a incremental increase,
Yeah.
and then with the combos on top of that. So that is one thing I'm excited to jump back into with Xenoblade
Mm-hmm.
2 and
Also, yeah,
re-experience.
there's a lot of depth of 2 that I haven't gotten to see. I never even did. I never got like Poppy Cutie Pie and stuff. Like
Yeah,
I'm sure that changes combat a lot.
yeah,
And yeah, I definitely see where he's coming from.
okay, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I definitely
Mm-hmm.
see that as well. Yeah. You want to? It looks like
All
you have
right.
one more
Yeah.
left, and then we're all in the community.
This is quite possibly my hottest take that I have.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is one that it's really stuck with me since I finished it, and I I swear I'm like the biggest fan of this thing. I think Future Connected is peak.
Yeah,
Like
and
I
I
loved.
recently, right before Metaphor Refantasio, I managed to get a quick Future Connected replay
Oh
done.
really?
Yeah, and I finished it off right before Metaphor released, and yeah, I remember it being good, and it's still as good as I remember
Yeah. Wait, no,
actually.
I do remember we talked about this actually. Because we were talking about the Pawn Specters at some point.
Yeah,
I just remember a bunch of people like when it came out, they kept telling me that it was bad, but they like hated it. They were like, "Dude, it's so bad." They're like, "It's so bad." And I'm like, I played it, and I'm like, this is kind of fire. Like,
yeah,
I really like that Melia is the protagonist. I
yeah.
love Kino and Nene. I think they're amazing characters. I'm kind of sad that they didn't actually like return in really any meaningful way, especially because Kino had the whole thing. He's gonna be the next hero pawn, and like I thought that was so endearing.
Can you believe that
So
they're Riku's siblings?
I, that's the
Now
thing is,
officially,
I wanted to believe that Riku was Kino's
son. I
son.
wanted to
Yeah,
believe that too,
yeah,
but yeah, it's now official that they're siblings.
yeah. I guess. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe we'll get to see them interact in the future. I mean, wishful thinking.
Yeah,
Um, but like I love the party dynamic. I thought it was so interesting how they explored kind of the fallout of the original game. They kind of
yeah,
questioned some of the actions that they took in that original game. They had a lot of new intrigue, which led into Xenoblade 3 really well. The heart to hearts, I think they were a lot better than well, they were handled a lot better than in the
yeah.
first
The
game. In the
quiet moments
first
were
game,
actually pretty good,
yeah,
actually.
in the first game, I didn't understand the affinity system. It's kind of weird, and so heart to hearts are like you
Yeah,
always find them and you can't interact with
you
them.
can't do them. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not very well implemented.
yeah. So I thought those were really great, and I just genuinely like. I think it does so well with what it sets out to do because it's such a low scale story, but it really like sets up some interesting things later and does
Yeah,
some really cool things with Melia, um, and it's just fun.
yeah.
And it's just
Melia
like
is my favorite character in the series, so
yeah,
I'm a little biased in
uh
me
huh,
enjoying Future Connected. Um, I I actually like the gameplay loop. Like,
mm,
I forgot that you don't have chain attacks, so you have to be a little more
mm,
strategic with how your combat is like in that game. And here's an even hotter take. I think Future Connected's side quests are the best that Xenoblade 1 has to offer
yeah,
because you do these side quests, they get you in some like very interesting battles, interesting
mm,
situations, and you get like
dungeons,
you get good gear, you get good gems, you get good gear, and that's how you level up.
mm,
That's how you like get stronger. Of course, you can level up and use expert mode and all that, but to get the best gear, to get the best gems, you have to keep doing those side
yeah,
quests, and they're very helpful. I think I did all the side quests in this run
uh,
because I just kept doing them and doing
nice.
them and doing them because I was just
I
having
missed
fun
a
doing them.
few. I didn't get
Yeah.
all the Pawn Specters. I got all except for one, I think.
Mm,
And that
yeah.
that one that I didn't get leads onto like a whole like super boss
Yeah.
and stuff.
Dude, that super boss is tough.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
a tough one.
I'm excited
But
to go back to it.
yeah. Another thing is I could feel traces and hints of 3 and Future Redeemed
Mm,
as I was playing
definitely.
or replaying Future Connected because the pawn specters are hidden across the whole map and there's so many other like things hidden across the whole map. And again, Biona's Shoulder is my favorite area in Xenoblade 1. It's
Uh-huh.
very well designed, lots of nice verticality, lots of cool places to go, and you're encouraged to keep exploring around there, and it's very well done
Yeah.
within that game. It's good. Yeah, story's good as well. Wraps up Melia's story very well. Um, Tyrea comes back, which is
Yeah.
great. The dynamic between Melia and Tyrea is very well portrayed, very well written. Yeah, overall it's very good. It didn't give us a lot of the answers that we were looking for, and we didn't get a lot of those answers until like maybe up until Future Redeemed,
Yeah.
but we got it, and even though some of the things aren't like clear cut explained, we can read between the lines, and a
Yeah.
lot of us have figured out our own conclusions with a lot of that.
Oh yeah, that was also that was I played that first because I started with Definitive Edition. Um, so I played that before even playing 2. That game made me realize that your party members aren't gonna come back in future
Yeah.
games. that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
these characters aren't necessarily gonna reoccur because the stories have very specific goals, and if they don't fit those goals, then it's kind of superfluous to have them there.
I was happy to see them at the end during her
That
coronation,
was
though.
cool, yeah.
That was nice.
But I
They brought
honestly like
that.
when I was going into it, I thought you were gonna have like the whole party with you, and I was like, "Oh, we get more Ryan," and I was like, "You're never seeing Ryan again."
Yeah, we get a whole lot more Melia, which is
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Is down. Um, that's it's a good place to end on for your takes.
yeah.
I will we'll do a few more community stuff, and then I'll get to my final
All
take.
right, that sounds good.
Um, my buddy Silver Shield here, this is what he has to say. He says, "One is the weakest in the trilogy for me, still a really good game. I really liked
Mm.
Fergus O'Donnell as an adult Rex, and Al Weaver grew on me. Though I
Mm-hmm.
still prefer two's Japanese dub. All the games have good Japanese and English dubs. One of the
Mm.
few things I dislike about Xenoblade 3 is the lack of QuickTime events. Ah, this is interesting. They're very good and wish that they were there in the regular combats and the chain attacks. If people didn't dislike, if people didn't like them, they could just add a toggle or a button to turn them off, with the side effects of doing less damage. That's a very good design choice. That's a um that's a good
Mm.
idea that they could have implemented, because I did notice as I was playing Xenoblade 3, I was like, oh, no B button prompt, and you will experience an X. That B button prompt is fast.
Uh
It's
huh.
fast. Like
Okay.
you will miss it many
Uh
times.
huh. I
And
felt
there are
that way
times
with
when
the
you miss it and
scavenger
it's
mini game. I felt that was pretty fast.
which one?
The scavenger mini game in 2.
Oh yeah, that was all,
Yeah.
yeah, that was fast. But yeah, it would have been nice to have it in Xenoblade 3. It
Mm-hmm.
would have been nice, like, as you're doing the chain attack, they do their animation, you do the
Yeah.
prompt
I
there.
liked that it was different. Like after 2 full games of having the chain attack being relatively similar, I liked that it was changed. But you know, I could definitely see like kind of the reverence for that kind of quick time event style, and like maybe they could reincorporate it in a different way
Yeah,
going forward.
yeah. But I generally agree with um one being the weakest. I don't know about
Yeah.
that. Like,
I mean,
we'll
I
see a lot
personally
of these
agree.
similar. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You did. Yeah, I always say this, like, one and two are tied for me, whereas
Mhm.
three is my personal favorite, because
Yeah.
I just can't choose. But like, one day I might prefer one day I might prefer two. It's very hard to choose between them.
Uh-huh.
Um, but we see a lot of similar kinds of takes in like the rest of this as well. And I agree with him. Fergus O'Donnell and Al Weaver were both fantastic as Rex.
That's the thing. Is I wonder what happened there with the decision to recast Rex for Future Redeemed. I wonder if Al Weaver maybe auditioned for the role again and he didn't get cast, because this does actually happen sometimes. Like when Ben Starr auditioned for Clive in Final Fantasy 16, he booked the role for adult Clive first, and then they
Mm,
said, "You're gonna have to. You still have the gig, but you're gonna have to audition again
okay.
for young Clive." So he actually had to
Wow.
like
Okay.
individually audition for that. So I
Okay.
wonder that
Interesting.
if you know, there's a potential like reality that potential possibility that they could have cast someone else to be young Clive, and then Ben Starr would just be old Clive.
Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting because um I didn't really know this until Xenoblade XDE, but a lot of people were saying like in for Japanese voice actors, it is like legacy. Like you have to grow with your character.
yeah.
If you voice a young character, you have to voice them when they're older as well. So that's why Rex's voice actor returned for um, Future Redeemed,
Uh-huh.
and I listened to it and it works. It
Yeah.
works. I don't know if it would have worked without Weaver unless he
Uh-huh.
would have like I have to like see how he sounds in other roles and like his
Mm.
general like live action acting roles as well.
Yeah.
But he would have had to like really
Uh-huh.
change his
I
voice.
just wonder. I wonder if he has that kind of range.
Yeah.
And it's kind
And
of. It's a little disappointing that I can't. I don't have a judge of that. I don't have a judge of
yeah,
like. This is what he would sound like
yeah.
in that
You know
role.
what's funny? Is when I first heard the trailer when he says nothing's gonna get through to him, he's a heartless machine. When I heard that, it sounded like Adam's voice actor. So I was like, wow, that's so like
Ooh,
genius
that
that
would have
they
been
are now
cool.
replacing Rex's voice actor with Adam, who's his ancestor. But
Yeah.
it turns out it was a different guy, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
bro got old.
yeah, yeah. Let's okay, we'll do one more quick one. Our buddy Henelty here says Xenoblade 2 is the weakest of the three. That's
And
a quick one, but
that's kind of surprising coming from Hedel too.
yeah, I would have actually no, he loves Xenoblade 1. I remember how
Um,
much he loved Xenoblade 1 and then 3 in Future I remember his experience with 3. He was very confused. He didn't know how to feel about it, but by the end of 3 he loved it.
yeah.
Future Redeemed, he was like all over the place.
Hmm.
Yeah. That was a quick one, so we can do one more, and then
Yeah,
I'll
it's like
go
I think
into
we pretty much know exactly how we feel about this one.
yeah. Torna is, so Zenato here says
Mm.
Torna is better than Future Redeemed. I like Torna's cast, world, music, and pacing way more. I do still like Future Redeemed though. That's a very
That's a
interesting.
very hot take.
That is a hot take. I will say Zenato is not the only person I've heard say that,
Hmm.
and here's something that no one knows about me.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
as I was playing Future Redeemed, I was loving it. I was enjoying it. But do you know when you're playing a game that's so good that you're trying to like nitpick so hard? That was me as I was
Yeah.
playing Future Redeemed for the first like 2 days. And I would keep telling myself, Torna did this better, Torna did this better, and this and this and this.
Hmm.
And then by the end of it, when I like experienced the full gameplay loop, affinity goals, everything, I was like, no, this is better. And then I experienced the full story and all that. I appreciated it more. I do think that Torna does a lot of very good stuff with recontextualizing characters we already know
Yeah.
in Xenoblade 2. That is such a highlight and such a genuinely great thing that Torna does that Xenoblade 3, sorry, Future Redeemed does, but it only does it for N. But then you get recontextualized characters for like Shulk and Rex, but they're not like integral to Xenoblade 3 base game
Yeah.
specifically.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of world music, I can sort of see sort of. I like Cent Omnia theme a lot. I like New Battle a lot.
Hmm.
Those are the songs that really stick out to
Yeah.
me with Future Redeemed.
I think like New Battle is really really good,
Yeah.
but the Torna battle theme is also really really good. It's like that.
I
That's really hard to compare.
I really like Torna's OST. Like
Yeah.
Oresco's theme, Kingdom of
The
Torna's
jazz.
theme, the battle theme, Lazario Woodland's theme, Gormot's jazz theme.
Hmm.
It's so good. Like I can I'm almost on if not at Zenato's opinion with the OST
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
Um in terms of world, I can see where they're coming from as well, because a lot of Aurora Shelf is recycled Bionis leg, but it's not
It
recycled.
is, but
It's not
I
like
like it
it's
way more
not.
than Torna. I like
I,
exploring in that game so much more than
I
Torna.
I think the exploration was done very well with the affinity goals and how it was laid
Hmm.
out and done. I think it was very
Yeah.
good. I
And I think
preferred
it has the side quests are so much better.
if you like if anyone's watching this and to Kevin as well, if you liked Affinity Goals, you're gonna love Xenoblade X.
Okay.
When I
Okay.
experienced
That's
Affinity Goals, I
exciting.
was like, they did it. They brought back a mechanic from X and
Hmm.
they made it more approachable and they polished it and they perfected it. So it's great. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
interesting take, but I can see where they're coming from
This
there.
is genuinely making me think about future videos because I always wanted to do a future connected versus Torna video. I'm
Ooh, that's a
thinking,
good idea for a video.
yeah, but what if I just talked about all of the DLCs in one video and compared all of them?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, you
might
should
be
talk
good.
about Future Connected, Torna, and Future Redeemed.
Yeah, that
Compare and
could be a
contrast.
video.
Yeah. Um, so here is my final hot take before we finish out
Oh,
with
okay.
the rest of the community. And this is
Quite possibly one of the hottest takes of all time.
yeah, and I'm still like pondering about this, and I'll just come out and say it. Xenogears is secretly the best Xeno game. And
You
like
might
I
be
know you
right.
have
Honest, I haven't finished the game, but you might be right.
it, the more I think about it, like I think about Xenogears all the time now. After beating the
Uh,
game, I think about it all the time because of like first of all, it's a fantastic story, but to
mm,
me, it's just impacted me very personally. I
mm,
love that story and like the journey that I went on and what I took away from it and all that stuff.
yeah.
But when I look at the rest of the games, everything that I'm thinking about with the rest of the games ties straight back to Xenogears.
Yeah.
All the themes, all the messages, and like I can't say a lot of it right now because I want you to experience the full game first, but there are prominent concepts that we talk about in Xenoblade Chronicles that are in Xenogears, but they're delved into so much more.
Ooh.
And like if I want to get a deep dive into Tetsuya Takahashi and Soraya Saga's psyche, what they want to express to the world, what kind of story they want to tell, it's all in Xenogears. Like
Mm,
it's there in Xenoblade and Xenoblade Chronicles, and like it's a complete story, but like everything is there in Xenogears, and everything
yeah.
is in Perfect Works. Perfect Works,
Mm,
Xenogears, all that stuff. Like playing that game just recontextualized my whole mindset on the series that I already really love.
yeah.
So
I'm quite early on Xenogears. I am still on my very long break from Xenogears because life got in the way, and now Metaphor has come out, and I'm also playing Twilight Princess. But I am I needed a break from the game, but recently I've been thinking about going back to it. I'm like, okay,
yeah,
I'll be ready
you're at a good
soon.
part.
I'm about halfway through disc one, so
Yeah, you're
I'm
just about
about
halfway.
one third through the game. So I
Yeah.
have so much more to still experience in this game. And Xenoblade 3 is quite possibly my favorite game of all time. Like, just the way that game hit me, how that game spoke to me, everything it covered, everything it did. Gameplay wise, story wise, beyond.
Yeah.
But I kind of have this vision, or not really a vision, because I'm not trying to predict this stuff, but I'm just like seeing how Xenogears, seeing what Xenogears has done so far, and kind of imagining where it could go in the future, and just listening to how people talk about it and how much of an impact it's had, and the fact that it is the point of origin for
Yeah.
everything in the series, and it has like this echoing effect across the series. Is I'm wondering, it's like, this game obviously had a lot of problems. It obviously had a lot of compromises, but it might just be like one of those works of art that's just so like raw and so
Yeah.
thoughtful, and has like
Yeah.
all these things that Takahashi and Saga just like really were really interested in. They wanted to cram all this stuff in this game, it just sort of blossomed in just the right way to make it like this game that really stands the test of time. Like the way people talk about it, like it's not like a proof of concept. It's like a really fleshed out game. So I'm very excited to see how I will think of it by the end.
Yeah.
But I can definitely understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. I had a lot of similar feelings to you prior to playing the game and as I was playing the game. But I also like I overhype things a lot, so I don't want to put
Yeah.
any expectations in anyone's minds, that being you or anyone else listening or anyone else who I've also pressured to play Xenogears or convinced to play Xenogears. But yeah, but if you guys are on the fence, play Xenogears. And shameless plug, I will be having like a video talking about like the best way to play the game, so look out for that in the future as well.
Oh yeah, that might be out by the time this is out, but
maybe
by the time of recording, he already has one Xenogears video out, so check that out as well.
Yeah, and that video is about why it probably won't get a remake and why it should get a remake. But the fact that it probably won't get a remake means that you should play it right now.
That's my next hot take. Xenogears needs a Star Ocean 2 level remaster. Specifically Star Ocean 2. I don't necessarily want a full remake. I just want nice 2D HD graphics and voice acting and maybe new portraits.
And a fully developed disc 2.
Yeah.
And that in itself is
this 2
quite
dungeons
the remake, and it would be that would be very good. They shouldn't do the Final Fantasy VII direction with this, because they have one shot to do this. If they spend like trillions of money into Xenogears, then Square Enix is gonna go bankrupt.
Yeah, I mean, they already almost went bankrupt after Xenogears came out, but I don't think that was Xenogears' fault.
Yeah, they have many problems currently.
Yeah.
So I don't think yeah.
I'm not gonna get into this because this is such a complex topic, but I swear, every time it's like, I don't know, Square Enix has just been. They're that chart of we're so back, it's so over. They're that chart since the year 1999. That has until today. That has just been them. Before that, they were like fine, but then they were just like going up and down.
Since 1998, they've been trying to recreate the success of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
And they know it's never gonna happen.
It's never happening.
I'm like,
I genuinely,
just give us.
The Spirits Within might be one of the biggest financial disasters in like popular entertainment.
Like,
given its ripple effect.
How do you fail so hard that you're like your star creator Hironobu Sakaguchi
leaves
takes
the
blame and leaves?
Because that was okay. This is so off topic, but it's just like, think about like the Dark Universe, how they made that terrible Mummy movie with Tom Cruise and then it died. Like they never made anything else. But like the Spirits Within literally affected the entire Final Fantasy brand forever.
Yeah, and Takahashi knew it was coming, and he
also left.
He jumped ship. Yeah, good on him. Smart. But let's continue with the hot takes.
So we have a beefy one.
Yeah, this one's got quite a lot. You wanna read this out?
Okay, this is from, I don't know this user, but Project NXDG. Yeah. Ricky's English voice is terrible. Okay, this guy's got like a bunch of hot takes in one. X's OST doesn't have a single bad track. Agreed. Glimmer is such a stupid name. Okay.
I kind of felt the same way when I first saw her in the trailer. I was like, I
don't know. It's kind of just a stretch. It's just their name, bro. I don't know. Yeah. I guess because this guy's got so many takes. Let's go through them as they come up. So Ricky's English voice, it's peak. It's perfect.
It's alright.
It's perfect. No, I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's good for Ricky as he is.
Yeah. There's also Gollum. I saw Gollum at a GameStop like 2 weeks ago.
Wait, he voices in the Gollum game?
Yeah, in the Gollum game.
Oh,
he voices Gollum.
No, my God, that's great.
It was sitting right there next to a copy of Lost Judgment. I was like, that's one of the best games ever made, one of the worst games ever made.
What system?
It was on PS4 or 5, I think.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Let's see. Xenoblade and Xeno even is anime. Oh, I think this is like kind of the concept of people are like, oh, Xenoblade 2 is too anime.
Yeah.
Xenoblade 1 is also really anime.
And he says always has been, always will be. Yes, I
Yeah.
agree with that. Um, each game is anime in its different
Hmm.
way. Gears is incredibly anime.
Yeah.
Like there are many parts of that story, like especially in parts that you're going to
Hmm.
get to soon.
Uh,
It's so anime. Like in the
yeah.
mid, like near the end of disc one, it gets so
Well,
anime.
even like stuff that I've seen, like there's that um whole segment, like after you get out of the prison when like the ship is crashing down, you fight
Yeah,
what's her name again?
Dominia.
Dominia. That reminded me of like a classic Gundam series, like either Zeta Gundam or like
Yeah,
what was it
mobile suit,
called?
right?
Yeah, Mobile Suit Gundam. Either
Yeah.
Zeta Gundam or there was this other one. I forgot, it was Stardust Memory. It kind of
Oh,
reminded me of that one. Um, so
yeah,
yeah, I mean
Tagashi was really inspired by a lot of those.
yeah, yeah. That was the thing, is when he started making the game or started like planning concepts. Sakaguchi had said that he had so many like Gundam model kits on his
On his
desk with
desk.
like all these
Yeah.
figures.
Crazy.
Um, so yeah, it's very big inspiration from a lot of anime. So yeah, I think that calling something anime as like a derogatory thing, or even in general, like I honestly think that it doesn't mean much to me, because I think like a lot of things are anime if you want to see them as that. Like Teen Wolf, the TV show, the like live action TV show, is anime if you want it to be, because it's all these goofy over the top characters with crazy powers having like intense dramatic battles and stuff. So it's like, and like you could call Star Wars anime. It's like
You know, most of the people who like to throw out the "it's too anime"
mm-hmm.
thing probably secretly watch Dragon Ball Z, probably
Yeah.
still love Dragon Ball Z as a kid. They're just too afraid to like put it out there and be like, "Oh, I actually like anime, Dragon Ball Z." But yeah, they still point at Xenoblade 2 and say it's too anime.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, the only really thing, I don't know. It's like, and it's also, it's, I feel like it's also a chicken or an egg thing, because it's like
Yeah.
so many anime are inspired by games and so many games are inspired by anime.
Yeah.
So like, it's like what really comes first? There's like the whole like Mithra in the bed scene is like, is that an anime trope? Is that a like a old sketchy visual novel trope? Is that a manga trope? Like where's the
Yeah.
really origin here? Like it's
And
kind of
it's
liquid.
literally like less than 5% of the entire game.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
those cringy
Mm.
anime things in Xenoblade 2. That's not
What
what I'm.
what medium had the first hot spring scene? I would wager it's one of those wood carvings, you know? It's like the traditional Japanese wood carvings. That's the origin of
The
the
first
hot
hot
spring
spring.
scene with the fog coming like covering the boobs and stuff.
Yep. It
It's like,
traces all the way back to
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And that's how
It's
historic
ancient
Xenoblade 2's
times.
legacy.
uh,
That's the legacy of Xenoblade 2.
yeah.
Yeah. Um, what else do we have
All right, I
here?
can continue. The only Xenoblade game with a sad ending is Torna. Um,
I
I think
agree because yeah, he
Xenoblade.
said
Well, Xenoblade 3 has like a bittersweet ending.
yeah, because he said
Yeah.
he says here, yes, Xenoblade 3's end is a happy one, barely bittersweet. And
Hmm.
it is bittersweet and it's only bit yeah, it's
Yeah.
basically bitter for just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like they keep
It's
saying like 500 times, we will see each other again. I promise
yeah.
to see you again. I'll see you again. And
It's like heartbreaking, but not in a sad way. It's just you're just so emotional and caught up in everything, and like you see all the characters, you see the Minato Rex, you see the family picture. It's like so many like
yeah,
emotional things. That yeah, it's not necessarily sad, but yeah, Xenoblade or Torna has like a really like
Torna
dour,
is really sad.
dark
Like
ending.
and then coupled with Jin's final words
Yeah,
and then Moment of Eternity, that oh my god, that
yeah.
song, it's so good, it's so underrated. It's sung in the point of view of Laura, her final like
Mm,
wishes for Jin, and then you think about what Jin does all of Xenoblade 2 and
yeah,
it's
yeah.
cinema, it's
Very
peak.
poignant.
Yeah.
Let's see. Xenoblade Definitive Edition should have been named Xenoblade 1. With something like the kanji for machine on 1, like the term marked on 3.
Oh, okay. That would have been cool.
I don't really know what he means by the kanji thing. Is
So
there? I don't
what
think
he
there's a
means
kanji
is
in 3's logo.
no, it's not. So you know how in Xenoblade 2 on the 2 you see that cross, Pyra's
Like
cross,
the
like X.
Aegis. Yeah.
Yeah, and then on Xenoblade 3 you see the turn marker on the 3.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
he
yeah.
said for Xenoblade 1 it should have had a 1, but that symbol on the number should have
Oh,
been the
okay,
Monadnock.
okay. That's cool actually.
Yeah.
I understand this. This makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um
that would have been pretty cool.
and Xenoblade XDE should have Xenoblade X1. That's to tease X2. We don't know if they're doing X2.
I'm
And
I'm
make
more and
X
more convinced.
is Xenoblade 10 meme canon.
Yeah.
And what is it? X I would be 11? What? Oh yeah,
that
another
gets
important. I don't even know. He's like trailing off here.
yeah.
um.
I copied all of his he had like 3 replies.
Okay.
So I posted all of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The Xenoblade 1 thing, that's cool. I don't. I feel like that's like a marketing thing. I don't know if they would want to market it like that. With Xenoblade X, they definitely don't want to market it like that. And like we don't know if Xenoblade X2 is coming. So, yeah, I don't know. That's kind of like that's a fan thing.
Yeah.
Rex's Salvager outfit looks way better than his Master one. Nah, the Master Driver outfit is so cool.
Yeah. Both look pretty cool.
Yeah.
I think my favorite look of him is the Future Redeemed look.
Yeah, that's probably the best one.
It's,
The Master
I
Driver
like that a lot.
outfit gives me big vibes of that movie that Saito did the character designs for.
Yes.
Like, Expelled from Paradise. Because the main character in that looks a lot like Mithra.
Yeah.
And like she has the same kind of color scheme. And then Rex has like that color scheme as well.
Yeah.
I like that movie quite a bit.
Yeah. I need to watch it.
It's not like it's like it's okay. It's like a very okay movie, but I just like I saw it when it came out and I grabbed it on Blu-ray when it was available. So I have like a weird connection it's like to that.
Yeah.
Future Redeems tracks aren't wait.
Future Connected.
Future Connected tracks aren't that red last one people stop saying I don't even
I think you meant to say Future
aren't that
Connected
bad?
tracks aren't that bad. So I agree. Future Connected is very good.
I don't feel strongly about them honestly.
Yeah. Very good OST. And then his last one is
this one I think I agree with. People should stop saying Xeno and EX when talking about Xenoblades, Xeno 3, Xenoblade X, because
what
it's
he says is what he says is like some people call Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Xeno 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Xeno 2.
Yeah.
And that gets very confusing because Xeno 2 this is a crazy meme. I've seen this.
I know
it's
exactly what you're
meme.
talking about.
Xeno 2 could mean Xenosaga 1.
Yep.
Xenosaga 2.
Yep.
It could also mean Xenoblade 2.
Yep.
It could also mean Xenoblade Chronicles X. It could also mean the entire Xenosaga trilogy.
Yep.
So there's.
It could also mean Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2.
Yeah, exactly. So I always I never call it Xeno Dash.
Yeah.
I call it Gears or Saga 1, Saga 2, Saga 3, or Blade 1, Blade 2, Blade 3.
Yeah.
Or
it is something that it's a pet peeve of mine. I know Yggdrasil does it, so I don't want to call him out too much. But every time I hear it, I think of the meme. I'm like, which one is he talking about?
The thing is, I sort of used to do it too. But then I don't want this to sound too pretentious, but I stopped doing it when I became a Xeno fan and not just a Xenoblade fan.
Yeah.
Like when you play those other games, you're gonna be thinking about those other games. You're gonna be talking about those other games. So you have to kind of separate them from the other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That reminds me, there was a weird phenomenon that happened when Danganronpa V3 came out,
Yeah.
where specifically my cousin, I don't remember, some people else on the internet did this, but my cousin called the other ones V1 and V2, and I'm like, no, that's not what they're called. The V3 was plot relevant to that game and that game alone.
Yeah. Naming conventions with many of these games are all over the place. Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, Xenoblade, Xeno series. It's crazy.
All right, you want to read this next one?
Okay.
This guy's got a crazy take.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
Red the Weeb says, Pyra is mid. Both Nia and Mithra clear her in terms of personality, design, and story arcs. Honestly, kind of see where I see where he's coming from. Yeah. I still like Pyra, but I think the others are much better. Let's see. Owlweaver was always good for Rex as a VA. I agree, 100%. Here's a pretty base take.
Okay.
Base game of 3 had enough nostalgia in it and didn't even need more, like people said. Yes, of course. And the thing is, like, the nostalgia is not like hitting you over the head. Like, hey, remember this place? Remember this character? Remember like this place?
It's
not
specifically not The Force Awakens.
And if the game did that every couple hours, I would have gotten sick of it because it wouldn't be telling
it burned
own
out and be
story.
like, come on, like, show me the new characters.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, this is an interesting one. Jin and Malos could easily be revived similar to the Aegis girls. I don't know about Jin, but it's already sort of confirmed that Malos is going to come back. So
yeah, I think I don't know if Jin could revive. Yeah, I don't know. I think Jin's story is meant to end where it does, but I do see a future potential for Malos, like we discussed in the art book video.
Malos is definitely coming back.
Yeah.
There's some.
I saw a post talking about the little scene at the end of the X definitive trailer with the guy in the black robe. They were like, "What if that's Malos?"
Here's the thing. I don't want to. You can make a legitimate case for that person to be Malos.
Okay.
I don't think it will be.
Yeah.
But that's how I learned about the Japanese voice actor legacy thing, because they listened to the trailer in Japanese and it wasn't Malos's Japanese voice actor.
Yeah, it wasn't his English voice actor either. So.
People were saying that it sounds like David Mencken. It kind of does, but not really.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's someone new.
I don't think they would recast him either. So.
Yeah.
All
right.
The thing about so a lot of these we talked about a lot of them, so we know our opinions on them. Pyra being mid, I don't know about that. Character design, I don't know about that. I think both the Aegis girls are equal in like character design. I think they complement each other really well.
Yeah.
I think their arcs are kind of the same arc when you think about it.
They are essentially the same character.
Yeah.
In the end, yeah.
But I do understand that, he's talking about how Nia and Mithra are more interesting because, they start off more abrasive and you need to kind of meet them where they're at and, like, try to understand them more. Whereas Pyra is very inviting and very kind from the get-go, but I don't think that's a boring character trait.
Yeah, and in a way that is sort of what she is supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
She's like, I have to use this personality to get close to Rex and form that kind of connection. And she feels that sort of remorse and regret. She's like, is this what I really should be doing? Is this right?
And there's so many good lines, like when the day switches and she's like, well, now I'm glowing. And she talks about being self-conscious and stuff. Like, I don't know. I think Pyra is a very interesting character on her own.
Yeah. I wish we saw them in some sort of way in 3 and Future Redeem,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's fine.
I was really wishing for a future team, but
Yeah, I like that Rex talked about them.
maybe we'll get
that
more
way, though.
lore in Xenoblade 4. We'll get like another kind of statue moment, or the painting with the children, something like that.
Possibly. Alright.
I don't even know how to pronounce this person's.
Alvis Choreo Rap 1.
Okay. I'll read the. Did I read the last? Actually, no, you read the last one. I'm getting confused. Alright. Xenoblade 1 is the weakest game in the franchise for me, and 2 and 3 are kind of exceeded it a lot, especially with 3's expansion. Yeah, I think we agree with this mostly. We definitely covered this already. So
yeah. And then Some Divine says Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is bogged down by too many references to the previous games. Oh wow!
They can never be satisfied.
I'm glad I'm not alone. Well, the thing is, I don't think there's too many, like what Red the Weeb and Some Divine are saying, but yeah, like that should not have been the focus of the game. Thank you guys. Thank you. Yeah. There's a few times where it works very well, like the Future Redeemed radio scene, but most of the time it feels a little distracting. I don't know about it feeling distracting. You could sort of say that with some of the affinity moments in Xenoblade in Future Redeemed, because
like, hey,
some of them are very good. Like, Shulk is like, this is where my mentor lived. This is where I used to like hang out. And Rex is like, oh, is that your brother-in-law? He's like kind of teasing him. And then he's like telling Nicole about the place where he used to have sandwiches with Fiora. Like, those were nice nostalgic callbacks.
But the thing is, I think that there's honestly very little in 3 and Future Redeemed that you would be totally lost on if you didn't even play the other games. Because it's like, because yes, you know Fiora, you know Dunban, like you know the history, but if you didn't, it would just be like, oh, this guy has a lot of history.
It would spark that intrigue.
Yeah, and like this guy has had these experiences, and he's like telling it to you in a way that you understand, because he's talking to Nicole. He's like, Nicole never met these people. So like there's a lot of things in the Xenoblade series that I feel like you really are supposed to play them one after the other. But in that way, like they stand on their own enough to be like you could genuinely like get into it. You won't be like lost. You won't be like, who's that? Why is he saying that?
It's
so
not
I really
like
don't think it bogs down the experience.
Yeah, it's not like you're more familiar with Trails. Like Trails, it's more important that you know the references before going into the next
Trails
game.
is like literally like reading the Harry Potter books. It's like just one after the other, same story. Sometimes you change the protagonist, but like
yeah. All right. So yeah, that's that, and then we have 2 more left. You can do the next one.
Okay, let's see. Xenoado22 says Xenoblade 1 has the best combat and quests in the series. Xenoblade 1 the best combat? I don't know.
That is a very hot take.
That's very hot.
I know some people who still really prefer Xenoblade 1's combat, but
I don't know. It's just it's not bad. It's just really simple, I feel.
The thing is, if you play the other games, you know that it just keeps getting better and better, and especially X's combat is a polished and more expansive version of 1's combat. It takes 1's combat and takes all the good things from it and just expands it into something unique.
I will say, my one thing for Xenoblade X that I'm worried about playing it now is I'm like, how hard is it gonna be for me to go back to the menu, the old menu where you have to scroll instead of just them being on the face buttons?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, it just feels like a pretty antiquated system at this point. Because it was on the Wii. Because it was like you only had one accessible face button. Because you're using the one show.
Xenoblade X was on Wii U, so it had like the nice,
Yeah.
it had the D-pad of the Wii U
Yeah.
gamepad. But you should play with a controller like this, like a 8-bit do controller, because you'll
Uh-huh.
have the back bumpers. So as you're moving around,
Oh,
you're
okay.
moving your character, you can move your
Yeah.
arms.
Unfortunately, I don't. This one's exclusively PC. I don't think this can connect to the Switch.
Oh,
I didn't
okay.
shell out the like extra 10 or 20
Mm.
bucks for that one.
But if that has a USB-C, you can
I
probably
think it does. Yeah.
you can try. You can see
Uh-huh.
if it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's how I do it with this 8-bit do controller.
Okay.
Yeah. But that Xenoblade 1, I mean, in terms of quests,
They're not bad, but it's got nothing on Hero Quests.
hero quests, ascension quests, as much as
Oh,
they're
yeah.
annoying blade quests, there's nothing like that in Xenoblade 1, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Xenoblade 1 quests, I liked them mostly because they were easy and they were quick.
Yeah.
And
They
sometimes
give
they
you
had
good
interesting
rewards.
stories, and NPCs are pretty interesting. But it's like, you know, I can't put it above any of the other games.
Well, one good thing about Xenoblade 1's combat, which gets better in the rest of the games, is the affinity chart. Like, if you target only the named NPCs, you'll develop the area affinity and the town affinity and expand that affinity chart, and it'll help you with like trading and like discounts in the shops and all that. So that's a nice benefit.
Yeah.
But
I think Future Redeemed perfected the Collectopedia.
yeah,
So like, yeah, I don't even think Xenoblade 1 does that the best.
yeah. That is an interesting one,
Uh-huh.
and this is going to be our last one finally.
Alright.
So the English voice acting is easily worse than the Japanese voice acting. Xenoblade 2 is mid. X is canon. Saga is cope. That is an interesting one to end
Saga
on.
is cope.
Yeah, that's quite the one to end on.
That's
English
the
voice
hottest take
acting.
we've seen so far.
Yeah, I'm surprised we haven't seen any Xenosaga stuff in here, but
Yeah.
yeah. English voice acting is worse than Japanese. And I have to play all the games in Japanese to.
Yeah, I don't know. This is I'm gonna call I'm gonna call the weeb card here. Who's to say the French voice acting isn't better? Who's to say the
Exactly.
Spanish voice acting isn't better? Even if if it exists, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Why call out just the English voice acting and why put the Japanese voice acting at a higher pedestal? Yeah. I mean,
I don't know.
I gotta
Personally, I'm
play
very partial to the English. I think the Japanese is good. The only one, well, genuinely, I've only heard a significant amount of 2 in Japanese because I watched the Japanese Let's Play
Yeah.
for a while. So that's a pretty good way to study. If you're studying a language, watch random YouTube videos and/or Let's Plays in the language you're studying.
And I heard Dragon Quest as a series is a good way to start off learning Japanese.
I have heard that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can't get behind that. Even like, I'm the kind of guy who genuinely watches a lot of stuff dubbed in English just because that's my native language. Even though
I prefer to.
Japanese is my second language, I just kind of like.
Even anime, I know most people don't like that, but I prefer watching anime.
Yeah,
and
even
English
like.
dub, like
I'll watch.
I can't have my eyes like this is just me. This is
Uh-huh.
a me problem. I can't have my eyes glued to the screen all the time. Sometimes if I look away, look at my phone, something, I want to still hear what the dialogue is saying.
Yeah, I have no problem with watching things with subtitles, and like, you know, I'll watch things in other languages, and I study Japanese and mostly like, you know, I don't use anime to study Japanese,
Yeah.
but like, I watch most of my anime in English. I watch a lot of things in English. I've been watching the new Yakuza show in English solely because of the voice actors.
Alex Lee.
Yeah, Alex Lee, John Young Bosch, Susie Young, like
The young today, yeah.
all the goats. So I just had to watch in English. I couldn't watch in Japanese. So yeah, I don't know. I think also, you know, there's so many other dubs out there. You know, there's French dubs, German dubs, Spanish dubs. You know, Italian dubs.
Yeah.
There's much more than just English and Japanese out there.
Yeah. Most definitely. Xenoblade 2 is mid. It's not. It's not.
It's just not. Yeah.
No, it's weak.
I think we've made a case for why that it's not mid over and over many times.
Yeah. And then what else? X is canon. You can make a good case as to why X is canon. If you're watching this video, what was your name? Where's Warren X? If you're watching this video, let me know why you think X is canon. Give a nice big spoiler tag to it. But I'm curious to see.
Mark spoilers. Put your analysis in the comments because we would really like to see that. Because I feel like every time, I've avoided spoilers for X, but every time I hear people talk about its canonity, they always have a different take. Whether they say yes or no, their reasoning is always pretty different.
When I heard Jake's reasoning, he was one of the first few people to explain that sort of point of view. And then I went to a few others and I realized, I was like, oh, okay, a few others are people are saying it this way.
I watched a video by Imperfect Works and I was like, okay, it's probably not super canon. And then I think there was a Luxon video as well where I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll see. And then Jake was talking about it and I was like, maybe it is canon.
Jake was the one who convinced me. Yeah. And then Savagen and JB have some very good X's canon videos.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh god.
Yeah, I think that was like when I went on my big Xenoblade like analysis video binge. When I got to Dumb Xeno's videos, I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about.
He does. And yeah, we've had many amazing discussions about Perfect Works as well, so excited for you to join in on those ones.
I'm excited to read Perfect Works.
Yes, that's a nice read as well. And then we'll finally end with Saga's Cope. I guess we will see.
Yeah.
We will see. The next new original game from Monolith Soft relating to the Xeno series will truly present to us if Saga's Cope or not.
I guess it will, because we've seen a lot of little bits and pieces of Xenosaga sprinkled here and there. Xenosaga, it hasn't really, it never got a HD collection yet. It never, really broke out of its. Last time it appeared was probably Project Cross Zone 2. It had some mobile game collaborations. It had some art books, like the Cosmos art book that has Saito did some art for that and stuff. And then most recently, she was featured in the new 20th anniversary Monolith Soft thing. But we don't know. There's a few bits of evidence. I really like the theory of the little speck in the sky being Cosmos rocketing down to the new world. I like that. I'd like to see that
Takashi did
happen.
say that after Xenoblade 3 and the DLC, we would have a better idea of what the future of the series is going to look like. So, with all of us collectively kind of coming to this conclusion, there has to be some sort of follow-up to our theories.
Some kind of connection. It
if
doesn't
not,
have
then
to
we've
be.
been so far off.
Yeah. But I swear, it has to be some kind of connection. It doesn't have to be overt.
Yeah.
But it will be there. I think it will be there. And obviously, neither of us have played Saga yet. So
I will next year.
Yeah, there's a lot of details.
Regardless of remaster or not.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll get to it next year, but I'll get to it.
Actually, I don't know if I'll get to it next year because I'm gonna be replaying X, and I kind of also want to replay Xenogears, so we'll see. Maybe I want to wait out for the Saga playthrough a little bit later, see if that remaster is announced. See.
I have legitimately so many games. There's so many games next year I'm looking forward to. I find it very unlikely that I'm going to be finishing Metaphor within this year. I want to play both the Bravely games. I want to finish off 3D Zelda games. I want to play more Final Fantasy games. I know, so many things.
You're gaming.
But I do really hope that Saga HD is not Cope. I hope that will come out soon.
That has a much higher chance of being real than
Yeah.
Gears Remake.
And here's the thing: is it almost was real. About 10 or 12 years ago, they almost did it, but market research said it wouldn't sell enough, so they
And
didn't do it.
that research was conducted before even Xenoblade Chronicles 2
Yep.
even released.
So the game has changed.
Yeah, the climate has changed. The
Yeah.
world has changed. We were ready for more Xeno.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that about finishes things off.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts or final hot takes?
I don't know. I mean, I think we went through a lot. We've seen a lot of really diverse takes, and you know, if you want, bring in even more hot takes in the comments, or dispute our refutations or anything we have here.
One quick thing to finish off this video, I wanted to talk to you guys about is I was telling Kevin that I have a lot of Xenoblade 3 videos that still get a lot of views.
Oh yeah.
And I want to share some of the funniest comments in my opinion. So I'll at least share like a few. Hold on, I have to find them. So these two are more recent. They're from another channel called Yggdrasil something, which is funny because our friend Yggdrasil, I showed it to him. I was like, oh my god, is this your burner account? And he thought that was really funny because it's a complete opposite opinion from him. So let's see what he said about Xenoblade 3. Here he said, I hate the game. Just a westernized style JRPG. Characters are boring, music terrible, and I'll side with the Japanese by saying it's the worst of the lot. So he kind of he's speaking for all Japanese people who supposedly hate Xenoblade 3. And then he might have said something here too. Yes. For Xenoblade 2, he said, I prefer the music and the characters of Xeno 2 to Xeno 3. See, he's doing the cardinal sin
He's
of
aware
Xeno.
of
it. For me, I wished I never bought the game relating to Xenoblade 3.
This is the Yggdrasil villain arc.
Yeah. Does he have another one or no? I think that's it. But I have to read this one comment. It's from my video called "Was Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Really That Bad?" in response to a lot of people's criticism about the game and the story and stuff. This is an insane comment. It's actually hilarious.
Okay.
It's a giant paragraph, and it's by this guy named Infern209X. So I talk about the world building of world building of 3 and all that stuff, and he says, "What world building? We learn nothing about the events that created Ionia outside the brief summary by Nia. You all need to quit hyping up the base game like it's better written than 1 and 2 when it isn't. Wait for the DLC. If it fleshes out the origins of Ionios, then you can say it has good world building or the best. But quit overhyping it and looking down on people that don't like 3. I get tired of that nonsense, just like I'm tired of all of you overhyping 3 soundtrack.
Oh my god.
Like it's more award-worthy than Xenoblade 2, when 3 only had good battle themes and vocal themes, and Xenoblade 2 outclasses its OST and everything. To have
That's
proper
crazy.
world building, you need lore and backstory to the characters and world, and in this case, a fused world, you need lore about how the world came to be, and need to explain the events that happened to 1 and 2's world to have proper world building done right. You act like I don't understand world building when I prefer classic Dragon Ball over Z for its
What, you talking about
world
Dragon
building
Ball
and
now?
lore. I prefer Mega Man Star Force over Battle Network for its lore and character development and emotional story. I prefer Xenoblade 2 over Xenoblade 1 for its lore, of its ever-changing world and character development and story with the Trinity processor and Klaus and Mithra's backstory. I prefer Sonic over Mario for the characters and character development and stories and the lore and the emeralds. And I could keep going. Point is, it's not that it's not that we don't get the world building and character development and lore in 3. It's that it lacks it because they rushed to the final boss and saved the lore for the DLC. So quit acting like our opinion is wrong when you don't understand how we think or feel at all. Also, I could argue they aren't moving away from Xenogears and Xenosaga, and the Fog Beasts are gonna be the new Gnosis threat, but I guess you missed Fog Beasts being enemies in the DLC. Oh boy.
That
That is one of my favorite
That is nuts.
comments I've ever gotten on my video.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
I'll send you that screenshot.
Yeah, there is like arcs to that.
Yeah, and there's
At first I was like, did this guy even finish the game? And then like, the fucking like, I prefer Sonic over Mario part just got me. That just sent me, dude. Mario lore goes hard, dude.
yeah. There's only one reply to this guy, and he says, wow.
That's it.
Yep.
That's really funny.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's where we're gonna end this episode on,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay, thank you
thank-
to everyone
yeah.
who sent us your hot takes, and thank you to
Yeah.
everyone who watched this podcast to the end.
Yeah.
Love to have you here. Very excited about pretty much everything we got going on here.
Yeah. Look forward. Yeah. Let us know what your hot takes are in the comments below if you didn't get to be featured in this video. Let us know what you think of our responses to a lot of our own each other's hot takes and whatever you guys said. And look out for more Conduit Cast episodes next year. I think we're done for 2024. In the next year, we'll talk about
Awesome.
Xenoblade X.
We might be able to get out one more, but we don't
We'll
know
see.
because life is
Yeah.
busy and complicated.
Yeah, but next year is going to have a lot. We'll talk about Xenogears once
Yeah.
Kevin has beaten the game. We'll talk about Xenoblade X, maybe first impressions, maybe once we finish the story and the expansion and all that. And yeah, and then we'll just talk about general Xenoblade stuff like
Yeah,
we usually do.
absolutely.
But yeah, thank you guys for all the support and thank you for participating in this. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next episode later.
See you guys in the next episode. Make sure to subscribe to Niche Quick Pops
And Kevin, the protagonist. Yeah, links
right.
in the description.
Peace.
Later.